For the worship of the Mayor, Councillor Faye for the member.
Please be seated, colleagues. Good evening, colleagues. Welcome to this meeting of the Borough Council. Oh, please be seated. Oh, I've said that. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed. Welcome to those members of the public in the public gallery and those watching from home. If any member of the public or press would like to record proceedings themselves, please do so from the public gallery without interfering with the business of today's meeting. Oh. Are there? Yeah. If the fire alarm sounds, can those sitting in the public gallery, is that better? If the fire alarm sounds, can those sitting in the public gallery exit through the doors behind them? And those sitting in the council chamber, leave the room by the doors behind me and make your way to the front of the town hall. To limit disturbances, please ensure mobile phones and other electronic devices are switched off or are on silent during the meeting. Any member who wishes to speak on any of the agenda issues should use the microphones available. Full council today will deal only with business that is set out on the summons. Finally, I would remind all members of the council of Procedure Rule 34. Any councillor who speaks at any meeting will not accuse anyone, member, officer, or otherwise, of improper motives, or use offensive expressions, or unparliamentary language, and must demonstrate compliance with the council proud values and the members' code of conduct at all times. Colleagues, I cannot tolerate unacceptable behaviour, and so please consider this as your first and final warning. I have not received any apologies to date or any members aware of any further apologies. Councillor?
Madam Mayor, thank you. Councillor J. Potts.
Right. Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies from Councillor Steve Harrison.
Any more colleagues? No? Thank you. The first item of business is declarations of interest. Does any member wish to make a declaration before we move on to the next item of business? Councillors, Councillor Welsh?
Yes, I'd like to declare an interest on item 6 as I'm a member of the Audit Committee.
Thank you. Councillor Dawes?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Likewise, I'd like to declare an interest on item 6 as a member of the Audit Committee. Thank you.
Councillor?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to declare an interest in item 6 as a member of the Audit Committee.
Thank you. Any more?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm declaring interest. I'm a volunteer at WIST and I'm also on the working party of Living Better Lives.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just occurred to me that I should declare an interest as chair of the Friends of Oakley Gardens group because I'm proposing an amendment to the motion on civil society covenant. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor?
I'm on the board of WISP. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Thank you. Colleagues are reminded that if you have a disclosable pecuniary interest in an item which prevents you from participating in the debate and any vote, you will need to leave the chamber during that item. Colleagues, the next item of business is the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 28th of November 2024. Are they accepted as a correct record? Is that agreed? Thank you. Colleagues, the next item of business is Mayor's announcements and communications. Colleagues, I would like to take this opportunity for us all to pay our respects on the sad passing of former councillor Ken Hickman. Ken was first elected in 1973. Ken represented the Wester Ward from 1973 to 1986 and the West Park Ward from 1996 to 2010. Our thoughts and prayers are with his friends and family at this sad time, and I will be attending Ken's funeral on behalf of the council to pay our collective respects. Thank you, colleagues. Yes, please. Would we all rise, please? Thank you, colleagues. Please be seated. The next item of business is to consider a report of the Director of Business and Resources on the Treasury Management Mid-Year Review, ending the 30th of September 2024. I will ask Councillor Jane Carter, Deputy Leader and Lead Member for Governance, Finance and Corporate Services, to present her report. Councillor Carter. Pardon? What is your point of order, councillor?
As you can see on the agenda tonight, we're doing a lot of reports, right? So in the constitution, it says that a member can ask a question at any time during the report. And I just don't want to be disturbing the member when they get up. It's going to be 4 or 5 times. In theory, I think it should be took out of the constitution because it's going to disturb someone. So would you prefer that we wait till the end for the questions, or as it says in the constitution, disturb them, which I don't think is right?
I think Councillor Carter would prefer to the end of, and if we can leave all questions to the end of her
I
statement.
think it needs removed, I really do.
Yes, thank
Right?
you,
Thank you.
councillor. Councillor Carter.
I just want to know what the official policy is about fascist hats. Is it a problem that someone's wearing that, or is that? It's Italian. Hat.
Oh, right.
And you couldn't get one that was not a fascist hat? I don't think it's acceptable in
Councillor Robertson, please. Councillor, if it's for medical reasons, then we will allow him to keep his hat on. Right, okay, councillor. Right, thank you. Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy Code of Practice on Treasury Management requires Cabinet and Council to receive a mid-year report on Treasury Management. This report covers the period from the 1st of April 2024 to the 30th of September 2024. In this environment, interest rates continue to be elevated to a high level. However, the Bank of England is forecasted to have several rate cuts over the next year. Inflation has now fallen below 2% and is expected to remain around 2% for the coming years. Over the period, a one-year Public Works Loans Board loan was taken for £10 million and 3 one-year market loans were taken. 2 separate loans of £5 million and 1 was for £10 million. 2 loans totaling £10 million matured in the period and were both repaid. The report notes that the Council is acting within the Treasury and prudential limits as set out in the Treasury strategy. Council is recommended to note this report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
That working? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Carter, for the report. I'm sure you'll know what I want to talk about today, and that's the debt level. The first thing is, I hope you can clarify a point I've raised before, and that's in relation to the debt level and what is presented in the wording of your report. You stated in the report today that our council's debt level is 648 million. Can you clarify if this debt level of 648 million includes the 80 million of PFI debt that we also hold? And that's taken into note that debt is expressed as owed or due money. So from my understanding, it isn't PFI and debt of 648 alone, it is 648 plus 80 million, totaling 728 million. In more general terms, but still related to the debt level, I see we still sadly figure in the debt ratio league for the UK. We're in the top 10, unfortunately, of councils with the largest debt per head, per resident league. Should be an alarm bell, which I've said before to every resident in the borough. We, South Tyneside Council, from a field of 317, managed to get into the top 10. This report also states that we have a debt level ratio of around 5 times our spending power. This is frightening. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This debt level we are burdened with is mostly accumulated under a Labour government and certainly completely under this Labour group. In recent years, at this point, I would normally get the comeback to all the fault of the Tories. God knows what the response will be today. Overall, I think we need to be more open and honest on how we here in South Tyneside present our financial position. God knows how many generations it will take to pay back this debt, but a starting point would be with the Labour group being more open and detailed with our residents on the position we're in. Thank you. You don't have SIPFA warning you about high levels of debt, worryingly appearing in the top 10 of the largest debt per resident league, paying nigh on 24 million it is now every year in debt repayments to the detriment of the council services we can offer. And the BBC challenging you on TV about spending too much. You don't get all that for no reason. And then for this Labour group to simply say, as the Labour group did to the BBC, the concerns are just scaremongering. I'm going to steal a quote Madam Mayor, there are winds of change in the corridors of the town hall. Maybe it's for others to be open and honest with the people of South Tyneside. The Labour
Councillor,
Group
time's
have
up.
had
Can you
their
conclude?
chance. Thank you. The Labour Group have had their chance. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Davies?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and Councillor Carter for the report. There has been a lot of sensationalism recently about the council's borrowing and investment decisions. And let's separate fact from tiny hills and focus on the reality outlined in this report. Yes, we have reassessed borrowing during 2024, but this is not a sign of recklessness, but it's measured and prudent to the financial pressures that we face. We've had wage increases this year, lump sum settlements to our hard-working employees, and inflation hitting hard on our services. Councils across the country are squeezed. Yet despite these pressures, South Tyneside Council continues to deliver essential services. What critics fail to acknowledge is that our financial position is slowly improving, and the mid-year review highlights that through sound financial management. We have reduced overall borrowing costs, taking advantage of favourable short-term rates, helping us avoid more expensive long-term debt commitments as inflation falls and interest rates fall. We've maintained our debt within prudent limits set under SIPFA guidelines, ensuring affordability and sustainability without compromising frontline services. Something that is a challenge for the year to come, however. And we have improved our investment strategy, generating returns that support service delivery and provide much needed financial flexibility. But it's true, the projected returns from money market investments have been revised at a loss of £400,000. That's not due to poor market performance. It's the result of reallocating those funds to meet immediate service demands. We're making responsible choices, balancing risk to ensure the best outcomes for residents. And let's not forget the real challenge here, the broken local government funding model. Both Conservatives and government and Labour governments alike have continually failed councils like ours, forcing us to manage financial pressures with fewer resources year after year. Government funding is not keeping pace with demand, and councils are left to fill the gap.
Councillor, you have 1 minute.
Despite these challenges, however, our change in financial direction is positive. We are reducing reliance on borrowing for day-to-day spending and strengthening our cash flow management. We are investing wisely in low-risk opportunities to generate sustainable returns, and we remain committed to ensuring every pound is spent in the best interest of our residents. To those who spread misinformation, I say this: look at the facts. South Tyneside Council is forward-thinking and committed to prudent financial management. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor.
Can I speak, please?
Yes, certainly, councillor Robertson.
I don't know what accounts you've been reading them where you've had earplugs in at meetings in the past and the stuff that's been demonstrated here. No blowing smoke over there. The reality is you've got to read into stuff. I don't know whether you're ready to jump over the floor or something, but you need to read stuff properly and see where we are.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think from what Councillor Thompson said, a stark warning with regards to prudence and being very careful with regards to the investments. But again, we've heard not a polarised view, but potentially the other horn of the dilemma, where the council is doing what it can with its services within the constraints. I only say that more recently, as a typical example, we never did get levelling up from the last government. It never happened. And I see it as decade upon decade of lack of investment in the northeast, certainly compared to the southeast. But of all the things that are current as well, which could be seen as a barometer of where councils are at, potholes, it's something like Brighton, which I always thought had the best weather and, you know, and a lot of things going for it. They've got something like a need for about £280 million for their potholes. Compare that with the amount of money that has been robbed by the previous government from this council with swinging exigencies to tax the people of South Tyneside. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Colleagues, today we are recommended to, sorry, do you wish to reply? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I just thank Councillor Brown and Councillor Davies for their comments, because I couldn't put it better myself, actually. Going back to Councillor Thompson's comments that he's made, and I have to say, Councillor Thompson, you are consistent in your comments, but I don't know why and how you think that we're not being transparent as a council in producing these accounts for you. And I'm disappointed that you come back that time and time again. Despite what you say, we were hammered by the Tory government. Our level of financing nationally compared to other councils which are in the more affluent areas was absolutely diabolical. And I think what we do with our financing is absolutely fantastic in providing the services for the residents of South Tyneside. We have assets which other local authorities within the region don't have. We really don't have. And our borrowing is affordable, and it's affordable, it's prudent, and we can, you know, and it's manageable as well. So thank you.
Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor. The too late, have you moved on? Understood.
I will ask Councillor Jane Carter, Deputy Leader and Lead Member for Governance, Finance and Corporate Services, to present her report. Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report deals with determining the council tax support scheme, council tax reduction scheme for the financial year 2024-25. Council is being asked to approve and adopt the council tax reduction scheme for the period from 1st of April 2024 to 31st of March 2025. The CTRS is a locally funded and determined discount which reduces the council tax payable by households on lower incomes. It is a statutory requirement that the scheme be reviewed on an annual basis. The local scheme does not apply to claimants of pensionable age who will remain eligible for up to 100% of support towards their council tax liability. The local scheme changed in 2024 to an income banded scheme, which provided up to 90% support for households on the lowest incomes and supported families, carers and applicants who receive a disability benefit. Over 10,000 households were better off as a result of the change. The local council tax reduction scheme is reviewed on an annual basis as required by law to ensure continuing affordability. The proposed scheme for 2024-25 remains substantially unchanged from the current year. Council is asked to agree and adopt as the council tax reduction scheme for the period from 1st of April 24 to the 31st of March 25, as shown in Appendix A, for the purpose of Section 13A of the Local Government Finance Act 1992 for the Council of the Borough of South Tyneside. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any questions, or does any member wish to speak to the report? Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for this report. Council tax reduction scheme is something that people who are on the lowest incomes need help to pay their council tax. And the frustration I have with this is that we are only offering up to a maximum of 90% for the scheme for working age people. That really, that is putting a financial burden on some of the people who really can least afford it. Everyone who needs support should get it. Otherwise, people just can't pay their council tax along with all the other bills for gas and electricity and food. We're still living with that austerity because this scheme had to come about because of the coalition government in 2013, basically making local councils responsible for these reduction schemes and not giving them the full amount of funding to support all of those who need it. So the council should have protested more, this council should have protested more at that time and since, and certainly should be asking the new government for more funding to restore the scheme so that it doesn't increase poverty here. And I think the other question I have is, and concern, is that in paragraph 16, it refers to the freezing of the income bands. And is that not the same as the government, the last government and the current government, freezing income tax thresholds? It really is a way to get a reduction in the cost of the scheme by the back door, a stealth tax. It's the same as those income tax threshold freezing. It means that more and more people will be over that cliff edge. And the report estimates that 70 people will likely be worse off this coming year. And that doesn't sit well with me when I appreciate all of the demands on our funding, but these are some of the people who will be just over that cliff edge, who will no longer get that reduction. And that seems to be an injustice.
Thank you, Councillor Ford. Councillor Francis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the report. I would welcome any initiative to try and support people on lower income households who are struggling with their bills, perhaps more than ever right now. And I'd like to have some assurances that the council tax reduction scheme addresses rising energy bills and inflation impacts and ensure that there's targeted outreach to increase awareness of the scheme among eligible residents. I should say at this point, personally, I believe that council tax is a deeply unfair system of taxation and deeply unfair way of funding local governments, and I don't think it's fit for purpose. We're seeing here the continuation of austerity and a refusal by government to restore adequate funding for local councils. And that means that council tax increases for those struggling to afford it, increase the burden on some of the most vulnerable in our society. We hear talk sometimes of redistribution of wealth, and the Labour government does seem committed to redistribution of wealth, just maybe in the wrong direction. We should have demanded more money for local government last year, and we should continue to make that demand. We need the restoration of adequate funding for local councils to provide the essential services to their residents and avoid having to pass that cost on to residents through council tax. A recent LGA report calls for an urgent reform of council funding, suggesting that council tax and business rates should both be looked at in order to best meet the needs of our communities. On the subject of council tax, Bradford Council last week contacted central government to ask permission to increase their council tax for their residents for up to 15% without the need for a referendum. And I've sought assurances from the leader of this council. I'm very pleased to say that the indication is that that is not being explored here, which I know will come as a relief to people. But the bottom line is council tax is deeply unfair. There needs to be proper provision for people that struggle with bills. We've already got people who are struggling to choose between heating and eating, and then excess council tax on top of it is just a bridge too far for a lot of people. The reduction scheme must be accessible and inclusive to protect all residents from hardship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor?
Thank you, Lady Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Carter, for that report. I'd like to agree with Councillors Ford and Francis in many ways. We all know that those on lower incomes are affected disproportionately, particularly by the cost of living crisis and the phenomenally extortionate increases in gas and electric bills, which we are all facing. But we need to do more, basically, to support those at the bottom who have the most need. And I would sincerely hope that our Labour Council would try to address this by encouraging their government to make some changes which redress these huge inequalities in our society.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Carter, for the report. Just for clarity, could you explain to me? My understanding is the council tax reduction scheme is a government grant. We are the administrators, but you use the terms locally funded, which gives the impression, this is back to my earlier words about be open and honest, giving the impression that this administration in local government are funding this. Could you explain that, please? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is a government grant, but it is up to us to locally to determine how we spend it. So that's the answer to that question. Targeted outreach, I totally agree with what the comments that should be made around the most vulnerable being, left out. And if as a council, we had the money to be able to give this to most needy people, well, not most needy people, but the people who fall in that gap, we would do it, but unfortunately we can't. But this is reviewed on a yearly basis, so hopefully we'll be able to look at it as the year goes on to see what changes that we can make. We can rest assured that as a council, we are regularly lobbying our government around local government finance and the reform of the council tax. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor,
Sorry,
can I just mention, Madam Mayor, can I just mention Councillor Thompson's mic? There's something the matter with it, Councillor. It's not you. It's just making like, I don't know if the members of the public can hear it very well. It's like a little bit of a Dalek effect on the volume. So I don't know if there's another mic, just so that we can hear, everybody can hear. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Colleagues, I'm sorry the debate's finished with Councillor Carter.
Twice
you've done that.
Yes, but
all you've got to do is look over here.
the person who
Twice.
presents the report then finishes the debate. Anyone who wishes to speak needs to speak before we finish with and I did ask if anyone else wanted to speak. Well, he should have asked his question before the debate was finished, and I asked Councillor Carter to finish. Sorry, I'm not arguing, Councillor Roberts. Colleagues, do members approve the banded council tax reduction scheme as set out in the appendix? Is that agreed? Thank you, colleagues. Colleagues, Council is also asked to delegate any subsequent minor changes to the scheme to the Director of Business and Resources in conjunction with the lead member for Governance, Finance and Corporate Services to ensure alignment with the final uprating of allowances applied by DWP in the assessment of national benefits, which remain to be announced. Is that agreed? Thank you, colleagues. The next item of business is to consider a report of the Chair and Vice Chair of the Audit Committee regarding Audit Committee Annual Report 2023-24. I will ask Councillor Guy, as the Chair of the Audit Committee, to move the report. Councillor Guy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors and members of the public, I'm pleased to present the Chair of Audit Annual Report. This report outlines the vital work for the committee as undertaken between October 23 and September 24 to support the Council's governance, financial oversight and risk management processes. The Audit Committee is a cornerstone of the Council's governance framework. Our purpose is to provide independent assurance and oversight on how effectively the Council manages its risk, maintains robust internal controls and ensures financial and operational transparency. We act as a critical friend, challenging and supporting officers and members to uphold the highest standards of accountability in line with best practice. Within this period, we've approved a refreshed risk management framework, which strengthens links between decision-making and identified risks while standardising risk management across the organisation. The committee has reviewed the Council's internal audit programme, ensuring it focuses on the highest priority areas. In addition to the programme, we also oversaw the Council's response to historic credit card and housing allocations. While it's not within the remit of the Audit Committee to ascertain guilt or determine disciplinary action, I can confirm that the controls have been fully implemented to significantly reduce the likelihood of this ever happening again. We've also have oversight of the Council's financial health, ensuring finances are in line with the Council's own Treasury management policies and legislation. This is particularly important as the Council faces ongoing pressures such as rising demand in adult social care and SEND services. The committee also provides transparency by ensuring external and internal audits are effectively coordinated. We highlight areas for improvement to strengthen public trust in council operations. Looking ahead, we will focus on enhancing training for members of the committee to ensure we stay informed about the best practices, raising awareness of the committee's role in supporting governance and financial resilience, and providing effective challenge and assurance to the council on key risks and decisions. I'd like to thank members, officers and external partners for their contributions to audit throughout this period, and I welcome any questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Are there any questions, or does any member wish to speak to the report? Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for the report, Councillor Guy, and welcome to the independent group. And thank you for all the work that you're doing, because I think it's known right through the council the way you're scrutinising and what have you, and long may it continue to everybody's benefit. Yeah. So I've got a few points to raise and questions to ask on your report, please. They're not going to be in any specific order. And whether it's for a written response later date, it's not meant to put you on the spot here and now. But if you can fire anything back verbally, that'll be great. So I'll start off with, you state in your report, it was queried if a credit card had been issued to the former chief executive of the council. Now, I made an FOI request for a copy of that ex-chief executive's credit card statements a long time ago, possibly 12 months ago. And I still haven't received them. Now, it could be that there was no credit card issued, but I'm informed from good sources that there was, and I would like to see them credit card statements. And I'd also ask whether it's confidential or not. I understand if you can't answer. Have the previous chief executive's credit card statements been forwarded to the audit committee? Have the police been involved? I don't know. I just need some answers, please. And then the next point, It says during discussion, members of the committee proposed that a body of work be undertaken to review the significant contracts which were signed during the tenure of Mr. Malcolm's leadership of the council. Again, could I ask you where we're at with that? Because I do believe from the 365, etc., we'll find millions missing. Thank you. The next point, paragraph 19 of your report. It says reports about the credit card usage relating to the previous leader. Now, what I've seen is, under an FOI request, I got them credit card statements given to me, finally redacted. But what I've seen on the council website is totally different credit card statements that I wasn't given. And they're more shocking than what the public know about. That's wrong. About the direct let process, about the previous leader, when are we going to see a published report on these two investigations, please? Because you're talking 2, 3, touching 4 years. Thank you. Final comment is in relation to SIP Fan. I'll do it in less than a minute, Madam Mayor, right? Thank you. Now, like Councillor Thompson with the debt, I keep on getting up in here and talking about SIPFA's action plan. Now, we've had SIPFA's action plan for going on 2.5 years now, and we're still not finished the action plan. And it's pretty shocking to me, the sections that's still ongoing. And under financial business partner, and it says, to specify how it will work in practice, key performance questions, data needs and reporting arrangements and job descriptions. I'm concerned that that's still outstanding after 2 years.
Councillor, you have 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And the next part of the action plan, it comes under the title Budget Holder Accountability. And it states to embed the need for financial management in the objectives and appraisal arrangements for budget holders, and then develop an SLA which sets out the finance offer to the organisation's expectation placed on budget holders. Them are pretty shocking, Andrew, that them are still outstanding after 2.5 years. And my final point, thank you very much for your patience, Madam Mayor. Have we invited SIFA back? And if not, come with, and would you please inform me as soon as possible? Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Does anyone else wish to question? Oh, sorry, Councillor Francis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the report. I'd like to thank the committee and the chair for its work and note the positive step of having opposition members as the chair and vice chair of this committee this year. I'd also like to reaffirm the importance of the role in light of some of the issues discussed, as mentioned, the credit card usage and direct lets. I'd praise the efforts to enhance transparency and strengthen measures to prevent future ethical breaches and financial inefficiencies. Transparency and accountability are key to the heart of good governance, and it's positive to see we're building on these foundations to deliver better outcomes for South Tyneside residents. Thank again the chair and the committee.
And Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the use of the card and the amounts either balanced or outstanding need to be reviewed. And there was a meeting here in April last year after the sort of March meeting and going into Purda, and then things were held in here. And I simply said at the end, I'm going to say it again, notwithstanding the balance of the money at that time with that event, it was the human cost that was of concern to me, and the fact that people were bullied significantly as employees.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, can I ask the chair of the audit committee, please, if he could advise us if my request for an investigation into the ownership of the housing ventures in Centauria homes, please. What happened to my request for the board papers of the two companies that I asked for these papers for, please? I've never received them yet.
Okay, Councillor
Thank
Roberts,
you.
thank you.
Don't worry about it, Mayor. Thank you. Just wanted to come back on a couple of things. To Councillor McCabe, Robertson, Francis, and Brown. Thank you for your kind comments towards the committees. Completely agree. Obviously the predicting the risk is a big part of what we've got some fantastic officers in the council that are doing on a daily basis. Risk in the financial world is very difficult to predict, and it's all about understanding your reserves, your margins, and trying to have a good understanding of what's going on in the economy and your industry's markets. So I think it's I won't take thanks for that. I will pass that thanks on to our Section 151 officer and the teams below that allow that to happen. To come back to Councillor Robinson, I'm going to get back to you on a couple of things. So I want to get some just clarification, and that included the credit card statements for any other members other than the previously mentioned person. The contracts, so that would fall out of the remit of this report. That is ongoing, and likewise with Councillor Roberts, your concerns as well, to bring sort of an update outside of that time frame. I'm expecting a report back to the next audit committee, which will clarify that assurance. Whether that can be shared or not wouldn't be my decision. It would be a decision for the committee itself and our head of internal audit. In terms of the leaders' credit card statements mix match, and I'm going to have to seek some clarification on that because I haven't seen that mix match personally. If you could provide me, that would be really helpful. And we'll get a response issued quickly on that one. As for the SIPFA, the length of time would ultimately not fall to the committee. What are the committee's purpose is to make sure that the things that were identified in SIPFA is being worked on. Can confirm that the committee is satisfied that it is forming part of a body of work. We've been receiving updates. In terms of an invite back, the committee moved and agreed for Cabinet, for recommendation to Cabinet to invite them back. It would not be up to the audit committee to make that decision, but certainly for us, it was a recommendation that we would like to have them back. And I know that has quite a bit of support. Certainly no officers or members have advised me otherwise. In terms, I think that's it. If I've missed anything, I do apologise, but yeah, that's.
So colleagues, point of information.
Thank you. Just to clarify that, we actually asked SITFA to come in. So just to make that clear, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor. A quick response, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carter. Can I ask you and the leader, I know you've brought them in, that was a great thing to do, and the action plan proved that it was required. And I know it's a lot of work that you've got to do, but can I ask you now, the leader and deputy leader, just for peace of mind for everybody, will you confirm that you're going to invite them back in the near future, please? Thank you.
Do you want me to come back to that? We'll take that back and let you know. I think that's probably the best thing to do. You'll definitely get a response, Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Colleagues, Councillor asked to note the contents within the report. Is that noted? Noted. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Guy. The next item of business is to consider a report of the corporate lead for performance and change management regarding annual report 2024. I will ask Councillor Dixon, as leader of the council, to move the report. Councillor Dixon.
Yep, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Can I just ask, are the microphones all right at the back? Because I've noticed this side, it's a little bit iffy as well. So can you hear me okay? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It's wonderful to be able to start the new year with our annual report 2024. 2024 has been another year of steady and positive progress against our vision of South Tyneside as a place where people live healthy, happy and fulfilled lives. On top of delivering our critical day-to-day services, we've pressed forward with some fantastic projects and service improvements that are making a real difference to our residents. It's hard to pick out highlights because there are so many, but among other things that we've actually done in the last year. So I am just going to highlight a few, colleagues. In relation to our financially secure ambition, our welfare support team have helped residents secure an additional £8.5 million in financial support. We've supported over 12,000 children and young people to access free activities and meals over the holidays. We've hosted energy roadshows across the borough, helping people to reduce their fuel bills. Our new Healthy Homes team is helping households address damp, mould and condensation. And our Child Poverty Summit, the first in the region, brought together over 100 stakeholders to help tackle child poverty. To support people to be healthy and well, we've made some fantastic progress on our Children's Services Improvement Journey, which has been recognised across our 4 Ofsted visitors this year. We have celebrated 1 year of our one-stop family hubs where families can access a range of support. We have brought forward new specialist supported living housing schemes for residents with learning disabilities. We have held a review of our hospital discharge process to help more people return home safely after hospital stay. And we have launched our new integrated domestic abuse hub, which is providing vital support to those affected by domestic abuse. To make sure local people are connected to jobs, despite the many barriers in our ways, we've pressed forward with initiatives across South Shields, Jarrow and Hebburn, including establishing the new Jarrow Forward Town Board, listening to residents through the Our Hebburn conversation, and continuing with our South Shields master plan and the relocation of Tyne Coast College. We've also supported improvements in carer support for young people. We've worked with over 300 businesses through the South Tyneside Pledge to increase local spend and local recruitment. And through closely working with the North East Mayoral Combined Authority and the North East Mayor Kim McGuinness, we've unlocked almost £25 million of additional devolved funding for our borough, which among other things has supported 1,600 South Tyneside residents starting on new skills courses and boot camps. In pursuit of our ambition of making sure local people are part of strong communities, we've delivered another wonderful year of events and cultural activities. We've brought our council housing stock back in-house to support more joined-up housing and neighbourhood services, and we've welcomed a new dedicated South Tyneside policing team, and we've received national attention for our pioneering renewable energy schemes. Excuse me, I have got a little bit of a cold, so excuse me. Finally, in line with our commitment around targeting support for making things fairer, we've launched our new South Tyneside Equality, Diversity, Inclusion and Belonging strategy. We've grown our 6 EDIB employee networks. We've celebrated our diverse local communities, including with this extremely popular From Adversity to Diversity conference, which marked Hate Crime Awareness Week. And we've hosted our first ever South Tyneside Pride with a programme of events ranging from inclusive family picnics to a film festival and a Pride concert, headlined by Sister Sledge. At the later section of the report pointed out, Madam Mayor, all of this has been made possible by the dedication of our wonderful frontline and back office services. My huge thanks and appreciation goes out to our fantastic workforce who've helped us to deliver all of these achievements and so much more. And thank you to elected members for championing the needs of our communities and our partners for your continued support. Our continued collaboration is essential. Importantly, as we are providing a look at what we've achieved, the annual report also focuses our thoughts on what is coming up this year. From hosting a climate change summit to help us find solutions to get us back on track for our carbon emissions ambitions, to preparing for our first adult social care inspection, to consolidating the progress we've made so far in our Children's Service Improvement Journey, to making the most of our opportunities associated with bringing back our council housing stock back in-house. Ultimately, I'm winding up, Madam Mayor. Ultimately, I hope colleagues will agree this report shows that armed with our vision and strategy, We are performing well and delivering a huge amount of vital and transformative services for our residents. There is so much more proud that we can be, there's so much more that we can be proud of in what we've achieved in 2024, Madam Mayor, and there's a whole lot more to be excited about as we look forward to 2025. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll wind up.
Seconded, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Dixon. I agree that it is clear from the annual report we have achieved an incredible amount in the last 12 months. And I would also like to reiterate my thanks to everyone who has contributed to the excellent work highlighted throughout this report. Our residents, our workforce, our elected members, partners and other stakeholders. It is really important, particularly in the context of some of the malicious content we see about the council on social media in particular, that we can demonstrate that this council leads a huge amount of really positive work and initiatives for and within our community. As lead member for Governance, Finance and Corporate Services, I also wanted to highlight the year-end data overview at the end of the report, which provides a helpful update of our current position across the range of indicators, which we monitor closely through our performance framework. As you know, this includes quarterly performance reports, which we publish on our website, in line with our values around being an open and honest council. Excuse me. It's important that alongside reflecting on some of our major achievements over the last year, we are also mindful of the context in which we are moving. Like any local authority, we have particular challenges that are specific to us, our geography, our history, our demographics, not least our long-standing issues with employment as a northeast coastal location, and therefore measures that lag behind national and regional comparators, but also persistent challenges around issues such as domestic abuse. This is often a factor in generating demand for children's social services and more recently increases in homelessness. Having a thorough understanding of our challenges means that we are able to take the necessary decisions and action to help shift them. Of course, we cannot do this alone, and our success is dependent on us working alongside our partners in South Tyneside, across the region and nationally. Of all the great things that we have achieved this year, I'm particularly proud of some of those targeted efforts for our work through South Tyneside Works, the pledge with local employers to support more people into employment, our success in securing national funding to support improved homelessness, outreach and more move-on accommodation, to the launch of our new Restart integrated domestic abuse hub with partners. As you can see from our latest performance data, this last year we have begun to see some notable improvements in children's services indicators, including reducing rates of referrals into children's services, reducing rates of children in need, reducing numbers of children on child protection plans, and reducing numbers of cared for children. Indicators that we are moving in the right direction alongside our children's services improvement journey, including work in relation to early help, which is helping some families from reaching crisis point. Similarly, we are seeing some positive reductions in admissions of adults of all ages into long-term residential nursing care, suggesting that with everything from our work to improve hospital discharge pathways to efforts to build more supported accommodation options to our nationally recognised See and Solve service, making adaptations to people's homes, we are delivering on our goals of increasing independence and supporting people to live in their own homes where they belong for longer. There are other stories of success among these figures, and of course, other instances of persistent or emerging challenges where we are still working hard to help make a shift. I would like to thank officers involved in bringing forward this report. I hope colleagues will agree keep talking, that it's very valuable to have this opportunity to reflect on our performance and achievements together so that we can be assured we are heading in the right direction and that our decisions are grounded in evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I would like to thank the leader for presenting the report and Councillor Carter for seconding I welcome the fact that this comes to council, publicly holding ourselves to account on our stated aims and ambitions. And it's a chance to celebrate success and recognise the work of council staff. And there is much to celebrate, which we've heard at length from the leader. I want to particularly point out and reaffirm the references to tackling hate crime and our commitment to equality, equity, diversity, inclusion and belonging. And particularly this week of all weeks, when we've seen such hideous attacks across the water. And I'm pleased and proud to be part of a council that says, not in our towns and villages, not in our communities, not here. Getting back to the report, page 7 talks about targeting support to make things fairer and supporting residents and parts of our borough that need it most. But sadly, that's not always the case with political decisions made here in this chamber. And I'm thinking particularly, for example, of the winter fuel allowance motion last year. Page 32 of the report says, we've taken great strides as a council in recent years in achieving ambitious interim carbon emissions targets. Page 42 goes on to say, we will deliver a climate summit in spring 2025 in light of recognised barriers to reaching upcoming carbon emissions targets. But the report is much quieter about the fact that we've learned recently that not only have we missed a reduction target last year, but our emissions actually increased last year. So clearly there is much work to do there. Page 53 talks about the importance of preventing, reducing and delaying the need for adult social care. And I definitely agree that prevention is better than cure, both in terms of people's real life experience, but also in terms of finance. However, back to the earlier point I made this evening about adequate funding for councils, you can't cut your way to better adult social care. South Tyneside has achieved much, but we must continue to aim high, especially in tackling poverty and meeting our climate commitments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Melling?
I'll get it right in a minute. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Leader. The achievements that this council has made, outlined in this report over the past year, are a direct result of the leadership that Councillor Dixon gives. I read the report with my economic growth portfolio hat on, and so I'll be very brief, Madam Mayor, but in my opinion, this is a good annual report outlining quite clearly how we as a council are helping our residents through these difficult times, whilst at the same time working to our key ambitions, continually improving the residents' quality of life and prosperity, and looking forward to anticipated needs, particularly in social care and education, but also in culture, leisure and the environment, as Councillor Francis has pointed out. Councillor Dixon mentioned the £8.5 million that has been recovered by the welfare support team for our residents. And you will appreciate that that's not only a personal and family relief being in receipt of that money, but that money is spent almost immediately, I should imagine, and locally. So it is of great benefit to the local economy as well. The £125,000, which has been distributed to our food banks, and it is an absolute disgrace that in this day and age, in a country in the Western Hemisphere, we're having to have food banks, but nevertheless, they are there, they are needed, and the council is contributing to them. Our welcoming places hosted 1,326 visits and organised 13,000 holiday activities, which were delivered over the school holidays. We're endeavouring to reduce our economically inactive number by connecting people to jobs and to increase the number and range of jobs available. Our regeneration projects create the physical environment for business growth and job creation. It's not a question of cosmetic, making the town more beautiful. It is fundamental to our economic growth.
Councillor, you have 1 minute.
with almost 100% of our schools rated good or outstanding by Ofsted, and with new careers support in schools and a wide-ranging programme of employment and skills initiatives, together with job fairs and skills boot camps, we are helping people of all ages into the labour market. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. As part of my role as member champion for equality, diversity, inclusion and belonging, I had some meetings and conversations with lead member Councillor Taylor and officers. In the spirit of the Paralympics last year, I wanted to find out whether the leisure facilities in South Tyneside were welcoming and accessible for all members of the public, different people with different backgrounds, abilities, ages. I was really pleased to hear about the work that had been going on, such as the free swimming lessons for children with disabilities, and also the classes and activities that are available as well, which goes beyond anything the private sector can offer. The report notes that there's over 11,000 members of gym memberships and leisure facilities in the borough. So I'd like to thank the council and Councillor Taylor as well for the work and making sure that the leisure facilities are accessible to all members of the borough. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robertson? John?
Thank you very much for the report. Makes very good reading. I'm not going to say anything negative. I'm going to say nice things, and I mean it. I'm not going to grandstand like the leader of the Greens does and then dig years. I'm going to be nice because it's a lovely report, right? Really nice. And lately, dealing on behalf of the residents, it's been across the board, the help that I've been getting, real good turnaround from the housing, the highways, yeah. And there's the chair, the Jaracaf, the officers, Karen, Leah. The support has been great, right? It is, and it's an excellent report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Dixon, for the report. This is certainly a wide-ranging report. Thank you. And certainly there's an awful lot of good stuff going on in the borough. And I think this is the time, as Councillor Francis did and Councillor Robertson did, to thank all the officers and staff involved in that. But I did want to touch on a few points. It's good to see that we're repairing the damage to children's services in relation to Ofsted and restoring confidence seemingly very well with Ofsted, and the progress with the 3 children homes should certainly be applauded. On the extra care housing scheme in Heaven, again, I think this is fantastic. The benefits that will come through these proposed extra care facilities throughout the borough, absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, the long overdue one for the Westo Award, I can't get an update on this. I contacted the lead member last November. No response, no reply. I appreciate something to come back on that, on what the situation it is, because the original schedule, long overdue. And then moving on to the college, I know Councillor Dixon, you mentioned the college. So the college relocation, there's certainly significant delays here. There's certainly massive amounts of cost increases involved with those delays. There's a huge amount of misinformation and gossip on social media. I'd like to request, if possible, that we could have some sort of report on the current status delivered in council to put all that gossip to bed and find out exactly where we are. Because I'd like to think I'm well up on where we are. I've got no idea how sure of that I am. And certainly for the public, they're at the mercy of social media. So that request, I'd like to be considered if possible. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, I forgot to say something. Can I just, one thing, please? One thing, it was on my list and I've never done it. Thank you very much. Right. And all I missed off was about the Ofsted, because I have been monitoring that, because I made my mouth go when it all happened. And I'd like to thank Stuart Easwood and Councillor McHugh, because I have watched the 3 stages where we're at now, and it's going good. Thank you very much.
Councillor Brown, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Intervening, weaving in and out, I was going to give praise to Councillor Roberts for the genuine and sincere way that he's praised this report, and that's good enough for me. If it's good enough for him, I will follow on from that. I'd like to thank the leader, Councillor Dixon and Councillor Carter for the report. The commitment here is, it's such a vast area, but the commitment to health and well-being and the money directed to food banks, all the indices of aspects of deprivation, which again, the Conservative government passed as a legacy. But like rust, we can never and should never sleep. I used to think it was Churchill, and I'm timing myself, Madam Mayor, as well, I'll stay within the 3 minutes. I used to think it was attributable to Churchill when he said, this is an island built on coal and surrounded by fish. I think it was actually Ernest Bevan. If it was as bleak in the war like that, then we can do a lot more, and we have to hurry government. I'm sorry, but we have to go back to the government, and we have to make sure that people are in safe places, which we are aspiring to. And we've got to make sure that people can heat and eat, stay safe, be included, not suffer discrimination. I would like to put on record my thanks as an emerging councillor for the support I've had from the housing team in particular. I shouldn't do this, but I will say this from Gemma Stevenson in particular. You can't get perfection, but by heavens, you can get excellence. And it doesn't fail me. Councillor Dixon, Councillor Carter, Councillor Smith, I'm sorry you've got the sniffles and the coughs, but it is inherent in parts of my ward. And I see improvements, I see commitment, and I want to see more. And I'm going to put on record as well, where other people have used houses for the production of the weed, the herb, cannabis, these houses require deep clean. One lady told me she took 2,000 staples and plastic sheeting off a house. She shouldn't have had to do that. And she has aspects of ill health under a consultant. I'm really sorry, but where these houses are identified, they need to be deep cleaned. And just to end, Madam Mayor, where we are at the moment, we should not be ashamed of our heritage and our past. I continually say through South Tyneside, the legacy from 1936 and the pride and determination of the Jarrow March should burn bright even now. We should raise the bar, and I've raised this at CAF, between now and October the 6th next year, the centenary, that we push further than ever in these dark times to have a commitment to housing especially, and social housing, the best proof of improving health. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and Councillor Dixon for the report. I do welcome the positive of this report and the nature of this debate. I think it's worth, though, highlighting the areas that we are looking to improve. Life expectancy of a healthy life for men in this report fell by 3 years. That's a really big change to overcome, to make sure that men are living healthy lives for as long as possible. School leaver attainment also falls in this report, and that is going to cut across the ambition of sustainable, good lives with good jobs, without leaving school with strong qualifications. Doesn't hold you back forever. That is why we've got the commitments that we have both to the college and from the mayor to have further skills and boot camps. But it prevents, it's that initial start in life that you've got to work towards overcoming. And lastly, reflecting at the beginning of the year, we had 6 months of bin strikes. It happened. But it meant my pregnant wife, with a pushchair, walking down to a skip at Trinity Green to put our rubbish in a bin. That was the reality for far too many people. And that just needs to never happen again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Owens-Palmer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much, Councillor Dixon, for your report. I totally agree with many of the other comments about how positively I read that report and how the people of South Tyneside hopefully have seen some of the benefits. Although I very much applaud the efforts of the council in the improvements they're aiming to provide for all our residents and the benefits that they've seen from the work that has been done to date. The disparity between South Tyneside and national levels of financial security, employment, a best start in life for our young people is absolutely shocking, particularly with regard to the need for food banks, as Councillor Dixon acknowledged. I would like to hope that the current government will see this for what it is and provide greater funding to reduce the inequality which has been increasing in the North East for over a decade. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to officers and members involved in this report. The report outlines the council's 5 ambitions. Youth services fall under 3 of these, those being strong communities, health and well, and target and support to make things fairer. With that in mind, the ward I represent has lost both Tudor Reid and the Percy Hudson. It is the most deprived ward in South Tyneside. Billick and All Saints would benefit from a standalone community building on the old Tudor Reid site. Lack of adequate youth services is linked with antisocial behaviour, which my ward has a big issue with. Will South Tyneside Council and leadership support my call for a standalone community building on the Tudor Reid site or as close as possible?
Thank you, councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Dixon, do you want to reply?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, there's a number of questions, and can I just thank members for their positive feedback on the report, and thank you for all of that. There's an awful lot that's come out with regard to questions. With regard to, where we're sitting with on, our net zero targets, we all know that we agreed a cross-party working group that's been set up to discuss the next steps to see how we can actually reduce all of that. So just to give reassurance, we are actually doing that. With regard to, support, there has been a recent announcement from us as a council with regard to the Household Support Fund, where we're looking to support our pensioners that are just over the threshold. We'll be working with our support agencies to identify around about 1,200 of our pensioners just over the threshold with support of £200. So we'll be working very closely and trying to get that out there for our most vulnerable. The EDIB, I have to say, we embed equality, diversity, inclusion and belonging in everything that we do. And anybody who hasn't had the opportunity from an elected member's point of view, you should go along to the employee networks that we've got established. They are absolutely superb, and I'm sure you would be welcomed. I know that a number of us have been, but if you haven't, please take that opportunity to pop along. They are absolutely superb. The event, the Adversity is Diversity, was absolutely superb. It was well attended, and the response that we got from the people there welcomed what we were doing and what we've actually achieved. With regard to food banks, I have to say, not all local authorities support the food banks as we do. Some don't even support it all, but we've continued to give our food banks the support that they need. Nobody should have to go to a food bank, but unfortunately, that's where we are. But we continue to support them with £125,000 a year. We also support the community shops that are linked with our food banks. They're across the borough, and we actually help support and fund that through the UK SPF. So just to make you aware, colleagues, we actually help and support. And again, if you haven't been to one of these community shops, I most certainly recommend that you make a visit and find out the amazing work that they actually do within there. With regard to waste, I will just touch upon that, Councillor Davies. There has been a massive change within our waste services, and the performance that we are getting from our waste team is absolutely superb. So just to give some reassurance, there's an awful lot of work gone on within the waste team, and the performance is absolutely superb, and a huge thanks to everybody involved. With regard to the extra care, we've talked about the extra care. I can't answer the question with regard to the Westow element, but we have the one coming online in Hebburn, which will be absolutely superb for our communities. But just touching upon Tutor Reed, we have talked about an extra care facility at Tutor Reed with regard to a community facility at Tutor Reed. And with you mentioning about All Saints, we are trying to make contact with the trustees of All Saints from a council, because I know the lead member who's responsible is desperately trying to speak to All Saints. So if there's an opportunity there, if you wouldn't mind relaying that to say we want to have those conversations, please, that would be really helpful. With regard to the college, does that mean I've tried it? So if I've missed anything, please, I do apologise. With regard to the college, just to give you some reassurance, Councillor Thompson, things are progressing. They absolutely are. There will be a college relocated in town centre of South Shields. Councillor Carter actually sits on the project board. I get regular updates, and hopefully within the coming weeks, we should be in a position where we can make a further announcement with regard to the relocation of the council with the college. It has not been easy. It has been very, very challenging. You've just touched upon there yourself about how costs increase and increase and increase. Didn't help that the government didn't, that the then government, I should say, didn't give us the commitment with regard to the levelling up money, because that was an integral part of how we were going to deliver that. We did get that eventually. So that certainly didn't help with the delay of all of that. But just to give members, you know, some reassurance, we as a council work really, really hard in delivering for our communities. We do have our challenges. I'm not going to stand here and say that we don't. But you'll find in the report the data. We are very open and we are very transparent, and we know what targets we need to improve upon. And, you know, we should be working towards this. And I know that officers, we highlight this regularly when we get our updates on this report. And this is open to everybody on the council to actually ask the questions. Why, how, and when are we going to change with regard to improving targets? So this is there. It's there as a tool. It's a tool for all members to actually take forward. But Madam Mayor, this is an extremely positive report. We are going to see our challenges in 2025, there is no doubt, but we have some exciting things happening in 2025, and we should absolutely be proud of what we're doing in basically delivering for our communities. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Excellent speech, Tracy. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Colleagues, Council are asked to consider the progress made throughout 2024 and to note the report. Is that agreed? Thank you. Our next item of business is to consider a report of the Director of Governance and Corporate Affairs regarding complaints, compliments and comments policies update. I will ask Councillor Jane Carter, Deputy Leader and Lead Member for Governance, Finance and Corporate Services, to move the report. Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Complaints can sometimes be viewed negatively, but are actually one of the most valuable forms of feedback for any organisation. Complaints provide a clear window into issues that people are experiencing from their unique and personal perspective. To be clear, receiving complaints or comments, as well as compliments, are a just and necessary part of continuous improvement. That's why we have amended our policy to incorporate much wider feedback to learn from what customers are telling us. In February 24, the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman launched the new Complaint Handling Code, which sets out a process for organisations to support them to respond to complaints effectively and fairly. The purpose of the code is to assist organisations to promptly resolve complaints raised by individuals and to use learning from complaints to drive service improvements. The code only applies to complaints where there is no statutory process in place. This means that some complaints, such as those in children's services, adult social care and public health, are not covered by the expectations set out in the new code. However, I want to assure colleagues in the chamber and those watching at home that we already have thorough and established processes in place for all complaints, including statutory processes, and the changes set out in the code do not seek to amend or replace those established policies. I would also like to confirm that the new Ombudsman Code does not apply to complaints about the conduct of locally elected officials. As set out in a motion at the last meeting of Borough Council, there are procedures set out in the Council's own constitution, and where careful consideration needed around any future review of sanctions in respect of such complaints. The Ombudsman will monitor compliance with the new code from April 2026 at the earliest. However, councils are encouraged to adopt the code as soon as they are able to. We are a proactive council and are bringing forward our response a year early so that we can test the new system, review resources, and be at the forefront of change. We've revised all relevant policies to bring them to council together as a suite for adoption. Borough Council are asked to endorse a new approach to its complaints. The key compliments and comments policy in order complaints and comments policy in order to comply with the new code. The key set out in paragraph 5 of the report. As members heard at the last meeting of Borough Council from Professor Graham Wright, we already have in place a Forum for Standards Committee which oversees the Council's complaints framework. So we are well placed to respond to this self-assessment with independent review already been built into our governance. I would also like to take this opportunity to say that the Ombudsman writes to each council annually to advise of performance on complaints. Our most recent letter reported that we perform strongly compared to our neighbours and statistical local authorities where it comes to complaints handling. One final point that I would like to make is that compliments are also a vital part of our feedback system. They help us to recognise and celebrate the good work being done by our employees. Positive feedback will be shared with services to reinforce good practices and encourage continued excellence. Exceptional compliments may also be highlighted within internal communications to showcase examples of outstanding service and performance. In closing, I want to emphasise that this suite of new policies are further testament to our commitment to high standards and accountability. We believe that fostering an environment where concerns are addressed and successes can be celebrated, we can continue to improve and serve our communities better. I ask that Council approves the updated complaints, compliments and comments policies. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick moment, really, Councillor Carter. Just on compliments, actually, I had the pleasure of being able to thank officers for exceptional work since being elected, and I was not really clearly able to find a transparent compliments service. I've since learned, since raising this, that there is a pooled inbox to send an email to, but you could also send a generic inquiry via the council website. So if we could look to better signposting a compliment across both for officers to each other, members to officers, and for the public to officers as well, to credit and note exceptional service and support.
Councillor Yeh. John.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Carter, for the report. To say you've had plenty on the agenda this evening. You're doing a brilliant job. I've just got a couple of questions about some of the rationale for the changes. I've done my best to compare our current complaints policy with these 3 new documents, so apologies if I've messed anything up. But in terms of complying with the code, so I want to understand the rationale, particularly behind excluding the schools from the complaints policy. Is it that they're going to run on a retained statutory process? And how would that interact with schools that outsource their governance functions to the local authority? And are they going to be encouraged, so people that, let's say, outsource their monitoring officer, for example, and are we encouraging schools to still have a point of escalation to bring it to the local authority if they are maintained? Second point I've got to query is just the removal of the second stage of the complaints process. Now, I think that to me gives a clear way to get people to an external resolution through the Ombudsman faster and reduces the burden of the policy on internal staff. But I just want to know, how often do we see a resolution in a complaint at that second stage? And could we see a detrimental impact on people getting to a resolution faster by taking that out? A final point just on a question is around the persistent and unreasonable complaints. So just how we will moderate and supervise that fairly. And I just want to say a couple of positive points as well. Really glad to see some more context around the advocacy available for people going through the complaints process, and also a bit more information around how they can be lodged for compliments, complaints and comments. One format isn't always good for everybody, so I'm glad to see that become more accessible. And I also want to share the colleagues' comments around compliments. I do have the pleasure of working with some fantastic council staff here in this building, and I think it will be a bit clearer how we signpost those comments. I often end up sort of emailing their line manager and just saying this person's amazing. I would like to be able to do that in a way which possibly recognises them in a more effective way. But thank you very much for the report.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On page 156, the introduction, it says, to make our vision a reality, it is important that people have the opportunity to let us know how they feel about the services we provide. I'd just like to read this letter out to you. Writing a letter is probably the best way to express how I feel about living in this house. I understand my mum doesn't have the money to just go out and get us a house, but that doesn't mean that our family should have to live in a house that is crumbling. We've tried many times to redecorate and renovate our house, but it becomes pointless. The reason of this being is our house is falling apart. Not only am I embarrassed, but I am also ashamed to bring my friends back to the house. So embarrassing, I won't even call it a home. Constant excuses on why I don't want to bring my friends over. The reason is obvious. Money is an issue for moving, as I stated before. I have lived in this house for over 12 years. The amount of times I've seen my mum devastated because she hates to live here and she hates to have to make me and my siblings grow up here, as she has no other choice. Sometimes I see it as a punishment, living in a hut-like house above a sewer with crumbling walls. It's unfair. That was from a 13-year-old child of a resident that we are doing myself and my other colleagues are doing our utmost best to help. That letter went to numerous officers and we've had no response whatsoever from them. I've since taken it up to the top and I got an immediate response. So hopefully things will get moving. This was we started taking action on this way back as the beginning of December, and trying to get somebody to help and somebody to see the serious situation that this family is living in. And what does it say? It says that we want people back in the position they would have been in before having to make a complaint. I would hang my head in shame if I was part of the people that are allowing this situation to go on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robertson? Oh, Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to speak a little about the key differences between the updated policy and the previous one. We have been recommended to remove the third stage. Well, I think I speak for the vast majority of the public who have ever used the stage process when complaining that they seldom ever reach stage 3. This is because they have been fobbed off at stage 1. I sit on the standards committee and the complaint system this council runs isn't fit for purpose. Quarterly, the statistics come into the committee and those there metaphorically pat the officer on the back that reads out the figures of how the vast majority have been dealt with, remaining silent or seldomly challenging them. His report is noted, then passed through the committee without question from most members present. On paper, this all looks like the council is running an efficient complaints service. This couldn't be further from the truth. In my opinion, both as a complainant, a member of the public before I became a councillor, and now I have the basic oversight since I joined the committee, and I must stress it's the very basic of oversights, as information on complaints is strictly confidential and controlled by a select few. These skewed figures the committee is presented with mention no public satisfaction or record or record any content that the complainants felt the complaints have been fairly dealt with or within a timely manner. The committee itself isn't politically balanced, so the ruling group who votes always has control of the committee through numbers. The officers around them, for the most part, have been politically appointed by heavily
Point of
weighted
information, Madam Mayor.
Labour group councillors.
Yeah, just to confirm that the committee is actually politically balanced, Madam Mayor.
The fact the opposition here is sitting with 2 councillors with their emails suspended and heavily monitored is a testament to this political bias. The fact that the members' complaints also selectively are chosen is also testament to the political bias. Some complaints which members have submitted are put back on the back and have been there for nearly 4.
Councillor Brennan, the mentioned names is unacceptable. Okay.
Madam Mayor, whose name have I mentioned? Could you clear that point? A testament to that political bias. The fact that members' complaints are also selectively chosen is also a testament to that political bias. Some complaints which members have submitted are put on the back burner and have been there for 4, nearly 5 years. Others pushed to the front of the queue. The ruling party defending this shambles would have you believe it's down to cost and things are done fairly. This is simply laughable.
Councillor, you have 1 minute.
This is simply laughable. This report might as well be a work of fiction, along with the complaints procedure it's intended to improve. The cruel fact is, nothing will change in this complaints procedure until the party opposite is voted from power and this system restructured for the benefit of the people. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Brennan, the fellow member of the Standards Committee, I don't recognise anything that you mentioned there, what goes on in the meetings. We have large debates about the complaints from the public and we see plenty of data. All members are free to ask any questions and discuss anything in an open and honest way. The chair of the Standards Committee conducts the meetings fairly, so I really don't understand the issue that you're bringing up here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like some reassurance. It says here, compliments, a vital part of our feedback system and are a great way of telling us when we get things right. They help to recognise and celebrate the good work being done by our staff and can help share good practice, improved services. I'd just like some assurances that things have been brought in now to stop compliments being weaponised against staff when they do something above and beyond and they expect recognition for that, to only have a manager then put them down because they didn't follow rules and regulations in a time of need. And I think that's certainly something that needs addressed so that people have the courage to compliment the staff when they need without fearing that they'll bring our valued staff under scrutiny. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. As the best customer of the Standards Committee. Yes. So the first comment is about complaints against officers, right? Now, it's not none of this is a dig. So the one comment about the officers is when you put a complaint in against a certain level of officer, it's filtered by their colleagues and potentially involving Councillor Ellison as the chair of his committee. Now, because of the way the council is now, with the amount of Labour, amount of independents and amount of Greens, I would ask that you give urgent consideration to that, including other councillors from the other parties, stroke groups, just out of fairness and political balance, rather than Councillor Ellison being the only member involved. And, things might not be any different, but it just seems more fair. Now, moving on to the standards version. At this moment in time, I know there's at least 4 complaints were high-paid solicitors. Right now, that's 80,000. The Mountain officer said it in black and white. It's 20,000 for every external investigation. Now, 80,000 for them and we know there's another 30, 40 in the pipeline. Right now, what's not happening is in the Constitution, and if I do go to 3 minutes, please, for the first time ever, let us speak because I'm not being nasty. Right So in the constitution, it says informal resolution must be tried for the members. Now, Madam Mayor, informal resolution, some of these complaints go back 3-4 years, and the whole environment's changed now. I know that I get on with 70% of Labour councillors now. I'll never get on with the Malcolmites, we know that. But 70% of Labour councillors, and if I upset one of them 3 years ago, I'd apologise to them face to face.
Sorry, just to back up what not back up, but Councillor Robertson, this report isn't about members' complaints.
You'll see it is.
No, it isn't.
Like, Madam Mayor, will you jump to someone else and I'll just get the section, come back in if you don't mind, please? I wouldn't be standing up and doing it. So, sorry, I'm shouting from the thing. So, as Deputy Leader, how is it not involving member complaints when we're covering all our complaints policy? Madam Mayor, I wouldn't be doing it. Right, so, this informal resolution, if we've got the two people together, right, and tried, because what we shouldn't be allowing is, and we are allowing this, Madam Mayor, if a complainant puts a complaint in, whether that's councillor, whether that's a supporter, they shouldn't be allowed to dictate, I want 10,000 or 20,000 taxpayers' money wasted. It should be mandatory that there always is informal resolution. Yeah. So, right, that'll do me, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that.
2 minutes.
I only got 2.
It has to be due with the report.
I'm going to show you where it is.
Sorry, yep, that's, sorry, Councillor Robertson, your time is up.
Thank you for your patience.
Sorry. Are there any further questions or anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Carter?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to back up what I've just said, this policy only relates to corporate complaints and does not cover complaints about locally elected officials, which are covered by a separate process within the council's constitution. The purpose of this report is to approve the updated corporate complaints, compliments and comments policy, and it is not intended to discuss any separate processes or individual investigations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carter.
Can I respond?
Colleagues,
please, Madam Mayor?
no, sorry, Councillor Carter has finished.
Sorry, can I just answer some of the questions that were asked earlier? Signpost non-complaints. Councillor, was it Councillor? Sorry,
Signposting on compliments.
Thank you. I will make sure that's picked up because that is really important. Yes, thank you. Schools do tend to outsource their HR, and they are covered by their own policies within schools, not this policy. And removal of the second stage, I will give you a response about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, councillor are asked to consider and note the report and agree the policies. Is that agreed? Thank you. The next item of business is to consider a report of the Director of Governance and Corporate Affairs to appoint to the membership of certain committees of the Council. I will ask Councillor Jane Carter, Deputy Leader and Lead Member for Finance, Governance and Support Services, to move the report. Councillor Carter.
Thank you. I'll try. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Colleagues, the purpose of this report is straightforward and is clearly set out within the report. We are now looking to appoint one employer representative on the pensions fund and one community representative. Oh, sorry, no, that's the wrong one. Sorry, I beg your pardon. 2 minutes. Beg your pardon, there's been a change to the actual report because one person has withdrawn. Yes.
Right, Councillor Carter.
So we're just looking to appoint one employer representative, and I'll try my best to go. This appointment is advisory. It's a non-voting representative and offered to ensure that the views of employers in the case of pension fund and views of our residents and community in the case of the CAF can be considered. Advisory status means that such representatives have a right to speak on any matter on the agenda and to receive reports. And those comments must be considered, although they need to be agreed and are acted upon. These appointments, just remembered where it is. Sorry, it's not. These appointments offer specialist knowledge, expertise and enthusiasm in the work of the committee. Because they represent sections of the local community, they are relevant to the work of the committee. I know this is something we all recognise and value. Therefore, Madam Mayor, I move that we appoint Mr. Colin William Brown to be appointed as community representative on Jarrow and Baldwin CAF for an interim term of 2 years. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Point of information. Are we only appointing a CAF representative, no pensions committee representatives?
Thank you. That we appoint Gareth Hall, accountant at Nexus, as an employer representative on the Pensions Committee for the remaining 24-25 municipal year. Is that agreed, colleagues? Agreed. Thank you. Right. The next item of business is to consider a report of the Director of Place Strategy regarding the joint housing protocol for care leavers. I will ask Councillor Jim Foreman, Lead Member for Housing and Community Safety, to move the report. Councillor Foreman.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Will I get me back sorted? This report seeks the approval of Borough Council to approve the new joint protocol between Housing and Children's Services that sets out a commitment to care-experienced young people in the borough to support their housing needs. The protocol is an expectation of the MHCLG in terms of preventing homelessness, offering appropriate support and ensuring that this vulnerable group is protected effectively between services. The protocol complements our existing local offer, which sets out the support and services care-experienced young people are entitled to. South Tyneside Council is a corporate parent to all our children, cared for and care-experienced young people. This means we will support them now and into the future, showing interest and care, respecting wishes and feelings, promoting best interests, and supporting them into adulthood. We are also seeking approval for an online housing commitment to care-experienced young people. It's aimed at care leavers and sets out our commitment as a council to support them to find housing when they leave care and prevent homelessness. The protocol will also ensure that every effort is made to prevent homelessness wherever possible through a proactive and preventative corporate parenting partnership approach. Options will be based on the care leaver's individual preferences, needs, circumstances, and the homes that are available, and will be agreed with the young person. The protocol also sets out our commitment to allow flexibility for care leavers, including allowing surrendering of tenancies where supported accommodation might be more appropriate. The Housing Strategy team worked with the South Tyneside Care Leavers Council to develop this protocol. The Care Leavers Council meets regularly and is for young people aged 16 and over who want to make changes and improve services for our care leavers in South Tyneside. Madam Mayor, this protocol is part of our continued proactive support to these vulnerable young residents as we work with Ofsted and MHCLG to improve positive outcomes for those experienced in the care system. We seek approval for the joint protocol and our ongoing commitment for our care experienced young people in getting the most appropriate housing support. Madam Mayor, I move the report.
Madam Mayor, I'll second the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Foreman. I've just got a question that two residents have given me basically, that have been given Section 21 notices. Now, these residents have been told to stay in the property by council officers until the bailiffs arrive. Could you just confirm this is what the council's policy is and what the council are telling residents? Because these residents are worried. Can I just speak?
Madam Mayor, point of information.
I haven't finished yet.
I'm putting a point of information. Councillor, this is not a council surgery. This is full council. You shouldn't be talking about individuals. My advice would be to email Councillor Foreman.
Thank you, but I'm speaking to his report and asking a question on homelessness. Thank you. So if I can just finish, these residents basically have been told by the council officers to stay in their property until the bailiffs arrive. That way they'll not be. That's the only way they'll be classed as homeless until the bailiffs arrive. If they left the property before the Section 20, before the bailiffs arrive, council will not recognise them as homeless. Now,
Councillor, can I remind you that this report is about care leavers, so it isn't to raise your
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Foreman. Earlier on today, I wrote a few notes about this report, and as she was particularly concerned about these young people being put in houses of multiple occupation. And I wrote a few notes about how I thought they might feel that this wasn't their home. They might feel threatened in these situations. Now, I've just come this afternoon from a meeting of young adults who have just come out of the care system. And actually, this is exactly what they are saying. There are not enough houses for them. And we know that needs sorting. We need more social housing. And some of these young people feel that they are in situations where there are different people of different ages with different situations, different circumstances, young people who are nothing like them, who maybe make them feel threatened. This is not what these young people need. They haven't had a lot of security in their life, and this is at the time that they really need security. Other than this, I think what the council are doing with regards to care, children in care is amazing. And they did say themselves that they consider South Tyneside the best place to be with regards to their support. There is extra support for them now when they leave, and also lots of different activities, and they really, really appreciate that. But all of them are concerned about the housing situation, about the fact they cannot get the houses that they require. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Just following on from Councillor Ginn, just obviously in the report that I presented earlier this evening, you will be aware of the Stay Close programme. And that is obviously working in partnership with our children's services, which supports care experienced young people. And this is absolutely what we want to do. And we've got 7 dedicated properties within South Tyneside for our vulnerable adults, and we're working with others. I mean, I think there was 24 in 2024 of other care experienced young people that have been allocated properties through the choice-based letting process. So there is work that we are doing, just that's in the report. I'm sure you've read it, but just, you know, that Stay Close programme is working with our children's services. So just for information, Councillor Ginn.
Yeah, thank you for that. But I think we need to keep working on it, because obviously these young people are saying actually they've not got what they need completely. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Foreman, I hope this report, I welcome it. And I hope we are being sincere, because my experience of dealing with care leavers, especially in the last 6 months of 2024, was absolutely horrendous. Care leavers in the system who have been let down by family, whatever, for whatever reasons they end up in the care system, they have very little trust in authority going forwards. And even when we bring in, you know, some of the highest officers and the likes of shelter to try and assist these people, still having doors closed in their faces, eventually common sense was seen, and that person is now in suitable accommodation within our borough, but they suffered 6 months of harassment and torment, which affected not only their mental health, but the mental health of their extended family, and it's not good enough. So I hope that this report going forward is genuinely going to help these people, because my experience up to now is we are failing miserably. I'm sorry I've had to make that comment, but that is due to personal experiences within this system regarding care leavers. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Robertson.
Got back just in time, didn't I mean, my headache was hurting us. I've had the opposite experience to what Councillor Kennedy's just said. Dealing with Councillor McHugh and Stuart Easonwold, and it's ongoing. So I've had the total opposite, and thanks to them for what they're doing. Right, thank you.
Would you like to reply? Oh, sorry, Councillor Dawes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to reflect upon what Councillor Ginn said. I was also part of that group today, not 1 hour before we came to this meeting this evening, where we requested, as part of the Children's Safeguarding Committee, to speak with a group of young people. Now, yes, there is a lot that could be further done, and we shouldn't take our foot off the gas, but I'm sure the people that were at the meeting would agree with me that they held South Tyneside Council up there because it was a mixed group. A lot of them were travelling in from places as Peterlee, Durham, where absolutely nothing happens. They get no support whatsoever. So it's a contrasting view, you know, based upon personal experience. But I came away from that meeting to say that we're trying very hard to meet their expectations. Yes, there is problems, and we took that away as a discussion point to take to the committee with the housing, because not every piece of housing will fit in individual needs. And of course, it just goes on. But I can categorically put my hand on my heart and say them people praised every single one of them. There's about a dozen of them, South Tyneside Council, for the help that they're getting with their care and the leaving care. Thank you.
Yeah, it's thanks very much for your comments, and really it's the two last comments previous to about young people and their problems. I mean, to me as a councillor, if I've got a problem, say with well, name volunteers, I would go straight to the lead member, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of Councillor McHugh as well. Anybody's got any problems like that, especially when we're talking about some of the most vulnerable in society, and especially in this borough, you know, don't hesitate to come to me or Councillor McHugh, whichever element it is, because certainly I would chase it up to the end of the earth to get something sorted out, because it just cannot go on. I mean, when I was a young lad, I had experience of this care system in Cleedon Cottage Homes, and if anybody ever knew Cleedon Cottage Homes, they knew the trauma that young people went through, and it really is a trauma. And so anything we can do to relieve that trauma is got to be, you know, the good thing. And this itself is a protocol to add to the local offer. It's going to make it better, and that's what we are after. But I would I would beg any councillor, if you have any problems with care leavers of any sort, please come and speak to the appropriate lead member.
Thank you, councillor. Colleagues, councillor asked to approve and adopt the joint housing protocol for care leavers and ask officers to publish it on the council website along with the housing commitment to care experienced young people. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Colleagues, the next item of business is to consider a report of the Director of Place Strategy regarding Gambling Act 2005, proposed revised statement of licensing policy 2025-28. I will ask Councillor Jim Foreman, lead member for Housing and Community Safety, to move the report. Councillor Foreman.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, this report proposes a revised statement of principles in respect of the Gambling Act 2005, effective from January 2025 until January 2028. The council, in its capacity as the local licensing authority, has a duty under the Gambling Act 2005 to review its statement of principles at least once every 3 years. The statement must seek to promote the 3 licensing objectives, namely preventing gambling from being a source of crime or disorder, being associated with crime, or being used to support crime, ensuring that gambling is conducted in a fair and open way, and thirdly, protecting children and other vulnerable adults from being harmed or exploited by gambling. The proposed revised statement of principles is attached to the report as Annex 1 and takes account of any revised statutory guidance issued by the Gambling Commission. It outlines the general principles that are applied to ensure fair and consistent licensing decisions are made. It should be noted that our policy cannot include web-based and online gambling or any aspects of advertising and promotion which is covered by the Gambling Commission. After a 6 weeks consultation, the licensing authority did not receive any relevant representations regarding the new draft. The policy statement has now been refreshed and updated and is on track to be republished in January 2025. The policy will then take us through to January 2028. Full council are recommended to approve the revised statement of principles. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is the report seconded?
Madam Mayor, could I second the report? But in doing so, thank the officers for the contribution they have made in putting the report together. This was an opportunity, I think, for elected members as well. I recall way back in August of last year, I think all elected members received an email as part of the consultation process, and all the statutory bodies have been included in that consultation as well. So I welcome the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Foreman. So I do appreciate that this is a statutory requirement that, and there are, central government legislation that affects what we can and can't do as a council around this. I would hope that we would be pressing, because I know in paragraph 13 of the report that the government has a recent white paper looking at regulations. Obviously, that's mainly about online gambling, but there are changes that might affect our local policy in the future, that the government has promised to look at the consideration of cumulative impact of premises. So I think that, our town centres, and particularly South Shields town centre being near the sea and to tourism, there are more and more premises of this nature, and it is really vital to press the government to keep their promise to look at the cumulative impact of the number of premises in a small area. I think I welcome a public health approach to gambling. There is problem and compulsive gambling that has serious damaging impact on people themselves, their own mental health, their financial situation, with really high debt levels being possible. and the impact on their families and the wider community can be really damaging. And it also, I would argue that the concentration of a build of this of any one kind of premises is not a healthy, sustainable economic well-being, you know, of our town centres or any other area of this borough. So please keep up the pressure for more to be possible for us in the future.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone wish to speak? No? Oh, sorry, Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just on a very light note. I'd like to thank you for the report, Councillor Foreman. You couldn't give us any odds on the chances of Labour still being in power at the next local and general elections, could you please?
Councillor Kennedy. Colleagues, Council are asked if option 1 is agreed on the proposed revised Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Licensing Policy 2025-28. Is that agreed? Thank you, colleagues. The next business is to receive questions under Procedure Rule 8. We have received no questions for Council under Procedure Rule 8 for our meeting today. The next item of business is to deal with petitions received under Council Procedure Rule 9. We have not received any petitions under Council Procedure Rule 9 for our meeting today, and there were no petitions presented to the meeting of the Borough Council held on the 17th of October 2024 for update. The next item of business is to receive motions under Council Procedure Rule 10. There are 4 motions to be considered under Rule 10 today. I will ask the proposer of the motion to move the motion, and they may speak for up to 5 minutes. I will then ask whether the motion is seconded. The seconder may speak for up to 3 minutes or reserve the right to speak later in the debate. The motion will then be open to debate by members who may each speak for up to 3 minutes and may move amendments. Any amendment must be relevant to the motion, and only one amendment will be moved and discussed at any one time. If an amendment is carried, the motion as amended takes the place of the original motion and then becomes the substantive motion to which any further amendments are moved. Motion 1 has been submitted by Councillors Dawes, Barclay, Clare, Dixon, Ellison, J. Taylor, Keegan, Kilgour, McCabe, Melling, Gibson, P. Dean, Porthouse, Potts, Proudlock, S. Dean, Smith, Traynor and Welsh. Councillor Dawes, please present your motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and elected members of the Chamber. This is quite a difficult personal motion to bring for myself, but nevertheless, I'm going to bring it to the Council. And I will say that I have had a lot of help from Prostate Cancer UK in the preparation of this motion, and I think it's really important. Now, I think I was going to have everything wrote down, but I think it's probably best to just give you it straight from my point of view and from my heart. In the UK, unfortunately, 1 in 8 men will develop prostate cancer. Now, I am one of them men. I developed prostate cancer in 2023, which I received appropriate treatment, radiotherapy, etc. However, bringing forward into 2023, some of you may be aware that I was taken into hospital because I had a large bowel obstruction, which I had quite a large piece of surgery. But unfortunately, the consequences of that surgery left me with a stoma bag. And that's a difficult thing, I have to admit that. But life is life. And I have to get on with it, you know. So I'm pleased to say that I'm under chemotherapy at the moment. I'm halfway through, and hopefully the outlook is quite good for us. But getting back to the motion, as I said, it's until it happens to you as an individual, it doesn't really matter to me. I'll be quite honest, you know, it was just out there somewhere. But what I find is having a stoma bag, I have specific needs to get rid of that stoma bag because it's unpredictable. To be quite honest with you, it just occurs. It's, you know, the bag will fill, let's be honest, and it needs to be disposed of. Now, from what I've found within council buildings, within this building, when you go into the gents' toilets, there is no specific bin. Now, a sanitary bin, if you like. Now, that's okay, but no, you know, that's embarrassing for me if I then have to dispose of my contents into the normal bin. Someone has to come along and empty that, and I think it's a bit degrading and inhumane, and it embarrasses me. So I decided to go to Prostate Cancer, and they have a big, I've been dealing with them for a while, because they're a great group of people. And I, for one, I kind of became an ambassador for them. I'm prepared to tell people about, you know, what I have to live with every day. And it's, you know, quite well publicized. So what I'm really asking the council to back us on, if you like, is for the cabinet to consider that they would install a sanitary bin in male toilets. Importantly, in this building, this is my work building, if you like, but more importantly, if we could go across and perhaps consider putting them into public toilets, gents public toilets. Now, yes, it is a cost. So I have done a bit of digging around with the help of prostate cancer, and I have actually come up with some costs. So really for the council, and this is valid from October 2024, is for the council to we'll say put one bin in the toilet here, that would cost approximately £9 per month. Now, that 12 months, that would cost the council on extra expenditure about it's £108. Now, I worked it out, 14 toilets, strange things, but you start looking at these things, 14 meal conveniences run by the council, cost the borough. That would cost approximately £126 per month, and that would give a total cost of £1,512 by my reckoning. Now, that is for obviously the cost of a contractor to come in to collect the bin and replace the sanitary bin, you know, on a regular basis. Now, as I said, I'm asking you to support me on this because A, it's important to me, but I don't think there's any person here, both male and female, and within the audience, within the gallery, who has not been affected by a male member having prostate cancer. Yeah, and it's a thing which people just, men, I don't really like talking about it. At the beginning, till I had specific counselling, I didn't want to talk about it. I did not want to disclose, particularly to other men, that I had this thing attached to it as a stoma. You know, I couldn't even say the word stoma at the beginning, but I'm here now. So it can basically, people, happen to anybody. It happened to me. I'm fairly healthy, you know, never had nothing wrong with us. It just happens. But so there you go. There's my motion. I'm asking for, you know, the council to consider that extra expenditure. I'm also asking the council to write to our MPs, Jarrow and South Shields, Heaven, and for them to actively support the prostate cancers. Boys need bins. That's the catchword. Boys need bins. And try and get some legislation through Parliament as part of the Health and Safety Executive, because I could quote you loads of facts and figures because I have done my research on this, is that for ladies, for female toilets, it's in the regulations, but for some reason, it's just missed out for males. And as I said, I'm quite prepared to bring it to council, speak up for it, and ask for your support. Thank you.
Is the motion seconded? Councillor Gibson?
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Dawes. That took a lot to be open and transparent. Myself, I've been catheterised since I was 47-year-old. I'm self-catheterised. I've had massive issues, prostate, bladder, and I've still got other issues. Over the years, it's been very difficult. You know, you go out and about, there's no bins for men. You've got to put catheters within your pocket. I carry one now. You know, you've got to put them in your inside pocket, used catheters, which is, you know, it's not healthy, it's not good, it's not hygienic. My partner contacted the council leader, Tracy Dixon, and Tracy did get bins put in certain toilets within the building, which is absolutely fantastic. Ken's went for public buildings, council buildings, but I think it should go one step further. I think every, you know, people giving hospitality, such as the pubs, good trade names, good hotels, should put them in every toilet, because nobody knows what people's needs are and what health issues people have got. And I will support this motion 100%. Thank you.
You, Councillor Gibson. The motion is now open to debate. Do any members wish to ask a question, speak on the motion, or move an amendment? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Other speakers have eloquently put their point across. It's just to say to Councillor Dawes, the nurse in me, that I think he delivered his point with great tact and sensitivity and compassion. I didn't have a felt sense that Councillor Dawes was just doing this for himself. It shone through that this is something that needs to be addressed, I feel. And I think from the point of view of his humility and dignity in the way he spoke, it goes without saying that he needs to be commended for that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Coombs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Dawes. Very brave thing to do. My fellow ward councillor and also Councillor Gibson. You also touched on the fact that it does touch everybody. My older brother, no longer with us. He was the same, prostate cancer. Like you see, he's no longer with us. So I thank you very much for what you brought today, and I do support your motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Yeh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much, Councillor Dawes, for your motion this evening. I just want to thank both yourself and Councillor Gibson for being so open this evening. Myself, I've got Crohn's disease, and I've been in support networks of many that have stoma bags. And I think standing up here tonight, talking about your experiences, both of yourselves, is breaking down a lot of stigma that people really hold to heart. I just think both of you have been shining examples this evening of how to speak about that openly and proudly. I fully support this motion for so many reasons. I think basic access to sanitary disposal should be a fundamental right. You should never be ashamed or pressured to not be appropriately able to take care of yourself in public. I know that is important for so many reasons, and also to members of the trans community in our borough who may not have access to appropriate sanitary facilities in male gendered toilets. So thank you so much for bringing this evening. I'll be pleasure to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Can we have Councillor Least, please? Yes, I've got you down, John.
I would just like to say that it took a great deal of courage to stand up here and say what's being said. And it's a shame that, none of us have thought about these things before, because I've got a girlfriend who's got a stoma. And, it is more common than we realise. And I thoroughly support this motion. And I would, support anybody who brought something forward like this that would help their fellow people. And it's nice to see that everybody seems to be agreed on this.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Welsh?
Yes, as someone who had 4 members of a family who had prostate cancer, a grandfather, a father and 2 uncles. Now, there's nothing at all, 100% agree with what Councillor Dawes is trying to do. Because when my family had this dreadful disease, they had nothing, they ended up not going out, simply because there wasn't anywhere that they could put their bags, their stomas or anything. Unfortunately, all 4 of them died of another part of the cancer which spreads. And I want this to be not just in this area, but every area in this country. And I hope everyone will agree.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Roberts?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To be honest with Councillor Dawes, what you just stood up and said there, I'm telling you now, I couldn't have done it. Not a hope in hell's chance. I'm taking my hat off to you now and saying what you've just done, outstanding, mate, and my heart goes out to you. I've got issues in my family where we've got my brother's got the stoma bag on, and I've seen what he's had to go through at certain times when he's had to walk out and it's busting. It's horrible, horrible. So I would support you 100%. And heart to you, mate. Well done.
Councillor Robertson?
I will take my hat off to you, Ken. Thank you very much. I'm glad the mayor made us wait because I was full up and I wouldn't be able to talk. No, it's starting again now. My mother had it a couple of years before she died, and I know what went through what have you. I'm shocked at the HSE and everything else. I really am, because again, you don't know until it hits you or it comes near you. Absolutely shocked. Not about the council not having the bins. It's just unbelievable. You know, you could see someone, man or woman, round near toilets or whatever, and you think, God, they look weird hanging about, and you don't realise that they're struggling with what you're talking about. So thank you for making us wait, because my jaw would have went like it's just went there, and thank you, Ernie, as well. Brilliant motion. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Owens-Palmer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much, Councillors Dorr and Gibson, for your disclosures. It was humbling to hear. I know people who've had stoma bags and who have had prostate cancer, and it's ridiculous that it's taken this long, and we're now in 2025 and we still don't have these facilities. Every woman's facility, every woman's toilet in every pub, in every council building, in every public space has a sanitary bin for such a pathetically small cost. I think it is ridiculous that anyone could even consider not following your motion and going ahead as soon as we possibly can, and encouraging all other public buildings, whether they're pubs or restaurants or whatever, to actually do that as well. And I support this whole movement. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Dawes, would you like to reply?
Yes, please. Well, you know, just thank you guys. It's quite humbling. As I said, I'm not here to do this for myself. I'm trying to speak for the many, many people out there who have this condition, you know, and my way of contributing back into the system, because the doctors, the surgeons, your own colleges have been absolutely brilliant. I wouldn't be standing here today, getting quite emotional now, really, because at one point I didn't think I was going to be able to. So, you know, it's a miracle of modern science and help. So I will go, if it's past this evening, I will go back to prostate cancer and I will tell them of the positive result. And it just builds a picture throughout the country, because I can tell you now that this thing is happening across the country in councils as I speak. It's kind of like a wave effect. There is certain councillors who are prepared to stand up, disclose, and then, you know, try to get something done. So it is a national movement. And my hope is in the future is that the government do take this on board, you know, and they make it legislation, so we do get it in places. And I'm quite happy to hear the positive remarks, you know, from people, and I just thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
Colleagues, can I ask, is the motion agreed? Thank you so much. Motion 2. Motion 2 has been submitted by councillors Clare, Traynor, Carter, Gibson and Proudlock. Councillor Clare, please present your motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just before I go on to my motion, perhaps just as a suggestion, maybe the last motion could be transferable to other authorities as well through the leaders network. Perhaps we can get this at a regional level and then go national as well. Madam Mayor, may I first of all begin by thanking the leader for a quick response after I contacted her with the story, when the story went public about the potential closure of the South Shields Town Centre post office. Madam Mayor, sometimes we can deal with issues such as this by consensus or petition, but other times it takes leadership. And I think this was one of those times when we needed leadership, and she delivered. I'm certain this motion will have the full support of this chamber, regardless of political persuasion or indeed where people live within the borough. I'm sure, like me, when the announcement was made to the media by the chairman of the post office that he had produced a hit list of 115 Crown post offices closures due to cuts, and on that list was the closure of the South Shields Crown post office, it would have come as a complete shock to many. Colleagues, the original South Shields Town Centre post office was first opened its doors to the public on the 7th of July 1890. So I would ask you just to hold that thought for a while. So it opened in 1890, and so for the last 134 years, we have had a Crown post office in a central town location providing a service to the public. Indeed, as late as 2017, during the public consultation, when the post office relocated to King Street as part of the 365 regeneration proposals, we were given cast iron guarantees that the counter staff would be relocated to the new site and that the post office would continue to have a central base in the town centre. Colleagues, if we are to realise our vision for the regeneration of the town centre, then the post office must remain a key part of that vision. Yet here we are, without any public consultation, at the stroke of a pen, the chairman of the post office has included the South Shields Crown post office amongst a list of 115 Crown post offices that are destined for closure, and it appears his selection for closure was purely based upon the fact that the business model was changing to a franchise and that the Crown post office were losing money. All of them, I somehow doubt that. No due consideration was given to the consequences or implications for the public or the communities we serve, or indeed the local perspective, such as our regeneration proposals for the town centre. With a potential move by the college to the town centre location, which could help stimulate growth in the retail sector and increase the footfall, it is even more important to retain the central post office, and we do need those guarantees. I am aware, of course, that some opposition colleagues have reservations about the college relocation, but unless we create the infrastructure in the town centre, then fighting for vital resources such as the post office will become that much harder. On a positive note, I have been reassured by the post office in our correspondence since the announcement that a period of full and frank consultation will take place and that the objective would be to retain a presence in the town centre. Madam Mayor, I'm convinced that we can once again, working together, create a vibrant town centre where retailers feel confident about the future. A centrally located town post office is a vital piece of that jigsaw for growth and confidence. And I would urge all colleagues to support the motion, and in doing so ensure that we maintain and keep up the political pressure.
Thank you, Councillor Clare. Is your motion seconded?
I'll second that motion.
Councillor Traynor, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right? Right. The motion is now open for debate, members. Do any members wish to ask a question, speak on the motion, or move an amendment? Anyone? Oh, councillor?
Yes, thank you. I would absolutely support all efforts to save this vital community hub. And in fact, the Green Party's been involved in a petition working with local residents and have outlined some really similar things that that have been addressed here. One thing that would be nice to know is it states that you've sought the support of the MP. It's just, has she responded? What has that response been? And is there kind of what are the subsequent concrete plans that have come from that, if any, so far? Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Francis. Oh, right. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Traynor?
I don't need to speak. Thank you very much, Mayor, because I think my colleague has very eloquently proposed that motion. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Is the motion agreed? Thank you, colleagues. Colleagues, the evening's drawing on. We still have two motions to look at.
Madam Mayor, could I just come in? You haven't got this information, but I think it's important. I know what you're going to say about extending the time. The next motion, the Labour group have come to a consensus that we will withdraw our motion in support of the amended motion. So the amended motion will become the substantive motion, and that will save time. And I'm sure there's no member in here would vote against helping charities and organisations and bettering the lives of our residents. So that will be a time limit. Obviously, Councillor Francis may wish to speak for up to 5 minutes, second it up to 3 minutes, but to move things along, you know, I think it's only fair that you should know that. And obviously, Councillor Francis does know that.
Right, okay. Just leave that. Thank you for that, councillor. Right, motion 3. Motion 3 has been submitted by councillors J. Taylor, Porthouse, Foreman, Smith, McHugh, and P. Dean. Councillor Taylor, please present your motion.
Giving it over.
But we're not up to that one yet?
Yeah, no, they've withdrawn this motion and taken the amendment, Madam. The amendment from Councillor Ford.
Right. Right, so.
There's nothing moved.
Right.
Okay. It's right that Councillor Taylor presents it and then she can see.
Right, so Councillor Taylor is just to present a motion.
Yes, because there has to be a motion to amend.
Right. So Councillor Taylor, please present your motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This council notes the council welcomes the announcement of the Civil Society Covenant.
Microphone.
It's on.
It's on.
Only, it's not working.
The principles of the covenant are based around 4 high levels: principles of recognition, partnership, participation, and transparency. These principles provide the starting point of the development of the covenant through a process of engagement across the civil society of government. The civil society government refers to charities, voluntary organisations, trusts, social enterprises, mutuals and community interest companies, churches and other faith-based on organisations. It was brought on by Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy. The framework aimed at the transforming lives across the UK. Charities are great support to local authorities underpinning public sector contracts with voluntary income equivalent to 2.4 billion a year. In the borough, charities play a crucial role. Our recent Child Poverty Summit, as well as our past 2 poverty summits, have brought together third sector partners and council bodies in support of tackling this key issue. We work with Out North East on our recent Pride event, as well as other third sector partners on our recent Adversity to Diversity Conference, both of which are leaving a powerful legacy in inclusion and tolerance in our borough. The South Tyneside Council Welfare Team work collaboratively with partners to signpost residents to most appropriate service for their issue, including Humankind, Citizens Advice, Hospitality and Hope and WISP. Like Disability Network, Carers Network, White Ribbon, a new domestic abuse hub at Chichester House in South Shields. We also did International Women's Day, Child Poverty Summit, campaigns, food bags, welcoming places, housing services, build an extra care housing scheme, living better lives strategy, swimming lessons, children with disabilities and long life additional needs, children and care leavers, attended a free gym, swim, fitness class sessions. Also, we did remember Sarah Breckner, Holocaust Day, Armed Forces Day, 80th D-Day landings, Remembrance Parades, Mayor's Civic Duties, Good Friday Parade, Kids Fun Fest, Proms in the Park, Summer Parade, South Tyneside Festival 2024, LGBTQ plus Pride event brought 18,000 residents into the borough, the Great North Run, Stronger Shores, Project Energy Centre, EV charging, Safe Roads, 5G operation scheme, Port of Tyne, jobs, skills and learning. We have many success stories, and these are just a few, sticking to our 5 ambitions: financially secure, healthy and well, being connected to jobs, strong communities, targeting support to make things fairer. We wouldn't be able to do this without a lot of people in this council, officers, providers, partners, public sectors, volunteers and charities. This council resolves the work with third sector partners to write a letter of support to Stephanie Peacock MP, Minister for Culture, Media and Sport, arrange a round-table discussion with our third sector partners in the borough and invite the Minister for Culture, Media and Sport. Thank you.
It is seconded, Madam Mayor. It is seconded, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to hand over to Councillor.
Just get on with it.
The motion is now open to debate by members. Do any members wish to ask a question, speak on the motion or move an amendment? Councillor Ford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Taylor, for this motion. I do very much support this motion and propose this amendment to add more specific measures that we as a council could carry out to bring about the desired outcomes locally, to strengthen our work. The consultation on this framework, this civil society covenant, which the government carried out last autumn, will, I hope, genuinely strengthen the relationship between central government and local councils and civil society, the third and voluntary sector. The resolutions proposed in the original motion could be a very positive step towards this work locally. It would be very positive if the Minister does come to attend the proposed roundtable, as it would give elected councillors and council officers the opportunity to meet with a wide range of local partner organisations, enable the Minister to hear from us all, and it will be a chance for the Minister to let us know about the outcomes of that consultation on their new covenant. There are lots of concerns and barriers, as well as suggestions and evidence of solutions to problems that organisations have fed into that consultation, including the Local Government Association. One of the key points that the LGA fed in is that government, both central and local, needs to ensure that civil society is engaged in co-designing policy at an early stage, not simply having plans consulted on and a feeling of not being involved early enough, and that would really help. Another is, of course, I am going to say it, the importance of consistent long-term funding for civil society to play its full role, and that multi-year funding settlements for local government can help to provide financial security for the third sector. So I think I really welcome the fact that the proposers take this as a friendly amendment. So I don't know if people need me to read out the amended additions. They have been circulated, but for time, I think, can I leave it there? Is that okay?
Thank you, Councillor Ford. Is the amendment seconded?
Or me, fine, seconded.
Can we put it to the vote, Madam Mayor?
Do you wish to speak now, Councillor Robertson, or do you reserve? You don't wish to speak? Right, okay then. Do any members wish to ask a question or speak on the amendment? Councillor Roberts?
Yeah.
Right. Is the amendment agreed? Thank you, colleagues. That was well. Right. Colleagues, just in case we do run over, I do appreciate what my colleague said, but colleagues, I am conscious of the time and that we still have important business to get through today. So unless the meeting agrees otherwise, where 3 hours have elapsed since the commencement of the meeting will automatically end in accordance with Rule 28.4, unless we agree otherwise. Therefore, colleagues, can I move that the meeting of council continues beyond the 3 hours in duration this evening, if that is necessary? Agreed? Thank you, colleagues. Motion 4. Motion 4 has been submitted by councillors Francis, Davies, Ginn, Ford, Guy and Herbert. Councillor Francis, please present your motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, it was all going so well, wasn't it? We had 3 motions unanimously agreed, and then I've just had this handed to me, so I suspect that's not going to happen this time round. This motion seeks to address a policy that has inflicted profound harm on families across South Tyneside and far beyond, the 2-child benefit cap. This arbitrary and cruel limit does nothing to address poverty, but instead deepens it, punishing children for the circumstances of their birth. Over 4,000 children in South Tyneside are growing up in households affected by this cap. That's 4,000 lives limited before they've had the chance to thrive. The evidence is clear. The cap has no impact on employment rates or economic growth, but it has driven families deeper into poverty, exacerbated mental health crises, and entrenched inequality. The council has declared its commitment to tackling child poverty through our anti-poverty strategy and the Child Poverty Summit, but without calling for the abolition of this harmful policy, those things are only a half measure. Today, we have the opportunity to show leadership, to say that we won't stand idly by while our communities suffer. I urge colleagues to support this motion and call on the government to right this historic wrong, to end the 2-child limit, replacing it with policies that uplift families and provide real opportunities for children to flourish. Let us be a voice for the children who don't have access to this platform and act as champions for fairness and dignity. I urge colleagues to vote for the motion unamended tonight.
Oh, I've lost some place here. Is the motion seconded? Sorry for that. Thank you, Councillor Robertson.
Could I second, please?
Oh,
thank you.
Councillor,
No, it's not. I've already worked on it. I'm not grandstanding.
Councillor Gin is down to second it. Are you happy with that?
I'm
Councillor Gin,
honestly not
please.
grandstanding.
Do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Okay, I wish to speak now, please.
Right.
Thank you. As mentioned in the motion to council, the Labour Party has stated that it wishes to scrap the two-child benefit cap sometime in the future. However, this needs to happen now. Many Labour members are unhappy with the two-child policy, and South Tyneside Council has and is doing some excellent work to alleviate child poverty. But this policy is one of the biggest drivers of extreme poverty. How do we explain to parents and their children that things may get better for them sometime in the future when they are struggling today? What do we tell the child who goes to sleep and to school hungry, and to parents who go hungry in order to feed their children? What do we tell the child who goes to school with no coat to keep warm and shoes that let the water in? What do we tell a child who can't sleep because they are so cold? What do we tell a child who is not able to join their friends at after school or weekend clubs? And what do we tell a child who is never taken to the cinema or the theatre? I'm sure that they'll understand when we tell them that our government is thinking about them and would love to help if they could. This policy makes larger families the preserve of the rich. The rape clause is currently subject to High Court action, and by keeping this policy, we will witness the continuation of this dehumanising and deeply patriarchal policy. The government cannot claim to care about our children whilst allowing so many to live in poverty. By removing this cap, the government would make a substantive and immediate difference to the lives of thousands of children. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. The motion is now open to debate by members. Do any members wish to ask a question, speak on the motion or move an amendment? Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make an amendment, please. So therefore this council resolves to note the concerns of communities and residents to children, limit on working class tax credit and universal credit, and insert to ask the leader to write to Kim McGuinness, North East Mayor, supporting the work she has announced in tackling child poverty by channeling funding into after-school clubs, employment support and discounting transport fares. Ask MPs and the leader to continue to highlight the deprivation in South Tyneside and continue to support and champion the good work such as the Children's Wellbeing Bill sets, which sets out how government will strengthen child protection and establish free breakfast clubs in every primary school, and our reforms to the rental sector, including abolishing no-fault evictions, introducing AWOB's law and applying a decent home standard will ensure children have the security and stability of a safe home. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the amendment seconded?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, oh, Councillor, right, do you wish to speak now?
Madam Mayor, yes, I will. I appreciate your motion, Councillor Jen, and many of the things that you mentioned there, I went through when I was a child, just after the war. Everything you mentioned there, I went through. When I just want to back the amendment because I think it will enhance your motion. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Our solicitor would like to seek some clarity on this amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor McHugh, just so that all members know what it is that's being presented, you changed some wording that wasn't typed in red on the copy that's been handed around. Could I just ask you to repeat that so that members know what that change looks like? It just comes after the words thereafter this council resolves to, and I think you changed that.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. to note the concerns of the committees and residents, to 2-child limit on working tax credit and universal credit. Right, thank you.
So replacing the words oppose with
Yes,
notes
sorry.
of concern.
Yes, yes.
Is that clear for all members?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can I move a point of order, please?
Right, do you require the clarification?
No,
do you
I
wish,
move,
do you,
I would like
do
to
you wish
move.
Councillor McHugh to read it out in entirety?
No, I'm going to move a point of order, and I believe that Rule 12.6.2 of the Constitution is being broken here. An amendment cannot negate a motion, and this is clearly striking out the oppose. Council tonight in this motion will be opposing this, but this amendment just completely removes that. Either vote against it or vote for it. Thank you.
John, do you want? Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It's not as negative as to oppose.
Right. Apparently it is within my power. Now the amendment has been softened by the added words to accept that amendment, councillor. So I will go ahead with the amendment. Councillor Brown, did you wish to speak?
I do, Madam Mayor. I know the hour's late, and it seems to be at times with well-intentioned motions like this so late on in the day that we just had a bit of a glitch. But I did signify that I wanted to speak, and that is a fact. So I'll simply say this: I support the motion, and I have to say that as a children's nurse. But I've said it many times: I will never take an expert position on anything. But I did have the ability to represent sick children's interests under Act of Parliament for 5 years on the Nurses' Council. For a bairn who was critically ill at 4 weeks of age with a cerebral hemorrhage, I'll continue to put that back on behalf of children. It's to be commended, this motion, whatever the decision is about any other amendment. It's because we have to come out of the glacial age now, and the Labour government have to make a motion themselves. They've got to get going. We are still a rich country. There is a lot of money in this country. The investment is in children now and in the future. Whatever our politics across the chamber and back to the Metropolitan Mayor and all the way to number 10, the Prime Minister has got to get moving. He has got to protect the children in this country, and this bar on the benefit allowance to just 2 children, it will not wash. It has got to change, and we have got to make sure it changes very quickly. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right, is the motion seconded? Oh yes, sorry, I've got a bit lost off here. Right, so it's been seconded, it's now open to debate.
It's the proposed amendment.
The proposed, yes. So the debate is now on the proposed amendment. Would any member like to wish to speak? Councillor Yeh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate your discretion in allowing this amendment. I'm still not, it's probably a point of clarification more than anything else, Councillor McHugh. I'm still not clear on what your amendment is, because the section that was read out by the monitoring officer, it's not on the papers that are in front of us. So I have the council resolves 2, and the amendment in front of me strikes out points 1, 2, and 3. So is there additional wording in your amendment that you would like to propose that recognises the 2-child benefit cap, just so I understand exactly what you're asking us to debate today? Thank you.
It's a verbal amendment request, so it's a verbal addition actually. So it's to add to number 1, and it is to remove 2 and 3.
Can I just add a supplementary clarification on that? And one potentially is the monitoring officer, Madam Mayor. is it possible for somebody to move a verbal amendment to a written amendment for a motion? Is that something that is constitutionally permissible at this time? Just so I can understand we're following the correct process.
As I understand it, the softened amendment now can be used, and as mayor, I can allow for the amendment to go ahead. Councillor Guy?
I'm so sorry, Madam Mayor, and do apologise. I do apologise, but I am so confused here. We're talking about multiple amendments. The Constitution very, very clearly says that multiple amendments cannot be moved. We deal with one at a time. I've been put tonight a written version, and then that was it. Someone seconded it, and then suddenly there was then softening of words. I'm really confused, and I'll be honest, I don't know about other members in this room, but I don't know what I'm voting for here.
Point of order, councillor.
So it's a point of order, it's not me comment that I want to make on it. The point of order is, can the head of legal confirm now on camera that you definitely can do it verbally and send all councillors evidence of that tomorrow, please?
The Constitution provides for verbal amendments to be put without notice. The annex to the council procedure rules about amendments to motions recommends that members who are intending to amend or to move an amendment circulate what it is they're intending to do so that everybody can see what they are voting for or against. What has happened this evening is a motion was proposed which in its original form, the copy that each of you have, was capable of breaching Rule 12.6.2, which would negate the purpose of the original motion. What Councillor McHugh proposed was this document with a subsequent change that she expressed verbally, and that is why I invited the Mayor to have Councillor McHugh repeat that, so that this proposed amendment was clear to all members in terms of what it actually was. And for the avoidance of doubt, the original three resolutions, the first one is the words oppose are deleted and replaced with the council notes the concerns of the communities and residents to the 2-child limit on working tax credit and universal credit, and the other two resolutions are deleted and replaced with the red ones on the other side. That's my understanding. And that constitutionally is permissible, but of course it's up to the chamber to vote on that.
Right, colleagues. So we will now ask for the amendment to be debated. Does anyone?
Yes.
Yes, that's yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to agree with Councillor Guy that I'm thoroughly confused here. I can't understand why the councillors opposite, the members opposite, are trying to emasculate what feels like a very valid motion to support the deprived children of this borough, who this evening we have been focusing on quite significantly, and instead right to Kim McGuinness supporting the work she's announced in tackling child poverty and basically giving her a pat on the back for going ahead with doing that, when it would make much more sense, in my personal view, to go to the government and actually demand the 2-child limit is removed. However, IWAB's law, I don't know what that is. Applying a decent home standard, surely that's what the council is doing anyway. Ensuring children have the security and stability of a safe home, that's part of our responsibility as members. I'm not quite sure why I should vote for this amendment when it just totally deprives the original motion of its power and its intention to do good for the children of this borough.
Yeah. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, there's a lot of councillors do want to be here after 3 hours, and I understand that, and I'm one of them. right? But there's a childish game of tennis going on here all the time. The motion's an excellent motion, right? I agree with it. But you've got between the Greens and between Labour, and it's there tonight, an amendment, you've got the leader of the Greens spitting his dummy out, but it was all right 5 minutes ago that they were doing it to Labour.
Councillor, please.
Right. So I agree on that, but the table tennis has got to stop. That's why we're here till 10 o'clock. Childish games on good motions. Right. Now, look, on the amendment, I want somebody to answer on the Labour amendment why they've removed this. And the people at home cannot see this, so I'm going to read it. The Labour amendment removes, oppose the two-child benefit on two working... wait a minute. Ask the leader of the council to write to the Prime Minister to highlight the impact of the two-child benefit has had in South Tyneside and request the policy to be scrapped. Why would they want to remove that? Writing to the Prime Minister. Of course, we've got to do that. Kim McGuinness is already doing whatever and getting as many slaps as was just said. It should be the Prime Minister. Why do they want to remove that? And then it says, further instruct the leader of the council to write to all MPs covering the South Tyneside area, asking them to commit to their public support of the campaign to abolish the two-child limit. As I say, excellent motion. Stop the childish games.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Councillor Francis? Oh, sorry, sorry, Councillor Francis. Councillor Curtis.
Thank you. So I'm sitting down. I'm not feeling very well. Similarly, yeah, I want to echo what Councillor Owen Palmer said. It speaks to a kind of fundamental difference in conception of what the council is actually meant to be doing for residents. One's advocating for the area to government, asking for material changes, and then the other is just saying, would like you to continue doing what you're already doing, which essentially creates no meaningful change to residents whatsoever. And I think it just completely rings hollow, isn't it? I mean, we don't need to write to Kim McGuinness and say, keep doing what you're doing, we support you. Surely that's obvious. Of course, we support that anti-poverty work, but we want more. We want greater support for people in this area, and that needs to be advocating for government to change their policies. Likewise, we want the MPs to continue to highlight deprivation in South Tyneside. We want you to continue what you're already doing. Why do we need a council motion for that? They're already doing it. We don't, it's just meaningless. So I feel like we should be actually asking for stuff, you know, because I mean, you're just going to leave the children in the exactly same, and families in the exact same position as they were before. Like, this just does nothing other than self-congratulate. And I think that's a real failure to address the issues, especially when we all agree with what the fundamental issues are, that you know, children in poverty, it's unacceptable. We need to do something. So let's do something. This is an opportunity to do that. And taking out any sort of mechanism to do that is just, it's just failing children.
Thank you. Councillor Francis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, let's be really clear about this, because there is some confusion. The title of the motion is scrapping the two-child benefit cap. So seeking to take out the word oppose the two-child limit is clearly negating the motion. There's no two ways about it. And, you know, far be it for me to agree with Councillor Robertson, but, you know, he pointed out very clearly Resolution 2 and 3, asking the Leader of the Council to write to the Prime Minister to highlight the impact the two-child benefit cap has had in South Tyneside and request the policy be scrapped. It's a very clear ask, something that could make a huge difference to children's lives here in South Tyneside and lift those children out of poverty. Why would we not want to do that? And asking the Leader of the Council to write to the MPs of the area, asking them to commit their public support. They are our representatives to national government. That's exactly what their role is. They're the ones who can take this to their own government and ask for the thing that is damaging 4,000 children's lives right now in South Tyneside to be changed at the stroke of a pen overnight. The policy, as we've heard, is one of the biggest drivers for extreme child poverty. It's been repeatedly evidenced through peer-reviewed research carried out by universities, think tanks from across the political spectrum, and countless anecdotal reports. And the government, ignoring the hard evidence, is choosing to push austerity on sections of society who are the most vulnerable. This is a political decision. Austerity is a choice. It's not a necessity. I mentioned earlier about Labour's commitment to the redistribution of wealth, and it's distributing it from those who can least afford to those who have plenty to begin with. We're one of the richest countries in the world. And we're saying that we can't lift those children, 4,000 children in South Tyneside, out of poverty. We can't ask for that. Do better. Just do better.
Councillor Guy?
Yeah, I'll make this quick, but thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think many people over the past 15 years, certainly since I left school, have called the two-child benefit cap absolutely cruel and one of the biggest killers to society over the past 15 years. I'm absolutely horrified that anyone in this room tonight is attempting to change this motion and downplay it. For me, I cannot believe that anyone in the Northeast, I've even seen Tory MPs campaigning for this cap to be removed. It is disgusting. It is cruel. It causes a massive amount of disparity with income. This amendment does not have my support. It completely negates it. I respect our council solicitors and your opinion that you don't feel like it does. I disagree, and for me, this is going to have to be voted against. But thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I just make a suggestion that we'll actually withdraw the amendment, because I think there's a little bit of confusion whether it does meet the standard that it should for actually taking over from the original motion. And I think everybody in the room, you know, hand on heart, will all actually agree with the motion. And I think I'll just agree with Councillor Robertson on this occasion. Let's just stop playing games and let's just get on with it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As people have said, there is the human element to the child benefit cap, but the economic damage that this presents with lasting poverty far outweighs the cost of delivering this year after year. And Torsten Bell, Cabinet Minister, before he was elected as an MP, correctly highlights that. And so the continual challenge to not find the money to deliver this really, there was so much hope in July as to what could be achieved in the budget in October. And a lot of money was raised to do a lot of things. But for the sake of an infrastructure project, we could be delivering this right now. And that was a decision to make for the long term, viability of moving people around the country. But we need those people to live healthy and fulfilled lives. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I've stood in this chamber many, many times, banging on about children's poverty. 40% of our children live in poverty. It has been like I work all day, every day, trying to help the poor people who are in the lowest 5% of wealth on Horsey Hill. I cannot vote for this amendment. I'm sorry, I don't care what kind of trouble I get into, but I am not voting for it.
Councillor Chin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one last thing. It's more on a personal, how this affected me personally. So many, many years ago, I was a single parent of 3 children. But I had child benefit for all those 3 children. Because I had that child benefit, I could get my children to school, I could feed them, I could clothe them, and I could go to work, which then meant that I went on to spend 20 years working with children and families in many, many different difficulties. And therefore, it was a positive thing. And this is what we need to do now. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. It's
Yeah.
just to say to withdraw the amendment.
Withdraw the amendment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give her permission to withdraw.
I need now to ask the chamber for the permission to have the amendment withdrawn. Is that agreed? Thank you. Can we now ask if the motion can we now ask, if no one else wishes to speak, can we now ask if the
original motion hasn't been spoken about yet, so it's open to debate.
Right. We are now back to the original motion. Can I ask if anyone would like to speak on the original motion? Councillor Francis, would you like to close the debate?
Nothing further to
Sorry,
say.
sorry, I think Councillor Brown wishes to speak.
Madam Mayor, a late observation. I just hope and pray we're going to go from an unsure start back to the principles of sure start. Thank you, Madam.
Sorry, yeah. Nothing further to say other than to thank those members opposite who've chosen to withdraw this amendment. That means so much, and I know it'll make potentially make a real difference to real people's lives. So huge thank you.
Right, thank you. Thank you so much, colleagues. Can we now ask if the motion is agreed?
No, no, no,
Right,
no, it's not agreed.
so we need a name vote.
Against. No,
Councillor Robertson, please,
against.
come on.
It's got to go against. You have to go
We'll
against.
now take a name vote.
Against, against, no, against.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mhm.
Members, I'll call your names out in alphabetical order, and when I do, if you can indicate whether you are for or against motion 4 in its original form as it appears in your papers. Councillor Barclay,
Against.
Councillor Brennan,
For.
Councillor Brown,
For.
Councillor Carter,
Abstain.
Councillor Clare,
Against.
Councillor Coombs,
For.
Councillor Curtis,
For.
Councillor Davies,
For.
Councillor Dawes,
For.
Councillor Haydean,
Against.
Councillor Esteen, Councillor Dixon,
Against.
Councillor Ellison, Councillor Foggan, Councillor Ford,
For.
Councillor Foreman, Councillor Francis,
For.
Councillor Gibson, Councillor Guy,
For.
Councillor Ginn,
For.
Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Herbert, Councillor Keegan, Councillor Kennedy,
For.
Councillor Kilgour has left. Sorry, I can't see. Councillor Lamont, Councillor Leask, Councillor K. Maxwell, Councillor N. Maxwell, Councillor McCabe, Councillor McHugh, Councillor McKeown,
For.
Councillor Melling,
Abstain.
Councillor Myers,
For.
Councillor Oliver's left, Councillor Owens Palmer,
For.
Councillor Porthouse, Councillor Proudlock, Councillor K. Roberts, Councillor T. Roberts, Councillor Robertson, Councillor Smith, Councillor Stonehouse, Councillor Strike,
For.
Councillor J. Taylor, Councillor R. Taylor,
For.
Councillor Thompson is not here, Councillor Traynor, Councillor Welsh, Councillor Wood,
For.
and Councillor Yeah.
For.
Thank you.
Well done, the Labour councillors that had a spine.
Councillor Robertson, please. Colleagues, can I tell you that the motion has been carried by 29? There were 10 votes against and 9 abstentions.
Hang your heads in shame.
Councillor Robertson, please. Thank you, colleagues. That concludes the business of council today. May I thank everyone, including those in the public gallery and watching from home, for their attendance this evening. Good night and thank you.